Chapter 587 Law Enforcement Elder and Su Nupuchi. 5 large heads flew up and blood spurted out. Lin Yao and the other warriors fell one after another, turning into 5 cold corpses. The 5 city lords were killed in seconds. How did this guy do it? The surrounding soldiers' faces became deathly pale. In the blink of an eye, the 5 high and mighty city lords had turned into 5 corpses and collapsed in front of them. This completely shocked the soldiers. Moreover, they didn't even see how Zhuowen attacked. It was just a flash, and the 5 city lords had all turned into cold corpses. An aura of panic spread among all the soldiers. Everyone, don't be afraid. This Zhuowen is only one person, and we have tens of thousands of elite soldiers. The city lords were killed, and we must avenge them. Kill this guy. A general who looked like a general suddenly stood in front of the soldiers and shouted with a long spear in his hand. Although the 5 city lords were killed in seconds, and this general was terrified, he had tens of thousands of elite soldiers around him. With such a large number of soldiers, he did not believe that they could not deal with Zhuowen. Puchi. A cold light flashed, and the general who was encouraging the soldiers froze. Blood spurted out, and his head was separated from his body. With the death of the general, the surrounding atmosphere of fear became even more intense. All the soldiers stared at the general who was killed in seconds, and they all retreated. No one dared to go forward. The young man who was carrying the green coffin was too terrifying. Whether it was their general or the 5 city lords, they could not withstand a single blow from him. What kind of strength did he need to achieve this? Qiu Chao's eyes burst out with a blazing light as he stared at Zhuowen's back. Zhuowen's strength shocked even him. It seemed that Zhuowen might have successfully obtained the blood demon inheritance in the land of inheritance. Who else dares to go forward? Or do you all want to go together? Zhuowen's bone spear was stained with blood as he looked at the soldiers around him. His clear voice rumbled in the open space like thunder. No one answered, and no one refuted. The tens of thousands of soldiers fell silent, and some of them didn't even dare to look Zhuowen in the eye. They were originally following orders. Now that the 5 city lords and generals had been instantly killed by Zhuowen, they had already fallen into a state of being without a leader. In addition to the powerful strength that Zhuowen had displayed, no one was willing to risk their lives. Who dares to behave atrociously here? While the tens of thousands of soldiers were stunned by Zhuowen, a deafening roar came from the prison in the middle of the ruins. 2 whooshing sounds could be heard, and 2 figures stepped out from the prison, their auras surging. One of the 2 figures was an old man in a black robe, and the other was a young man in his 20s. At this moment, the young man was following behind the old man in the black robe with a flattering smile on his face. These 2 people were the law enforcement elder and the shadowy man, Su Nu, who had wanted to take away Guyu Tian and the other 2 people outside the Vitality Tower. Swoosh, swoosh. The 2 of them arrived above the open space in an instant. When they saw the corpses of the 5 city lords below, their pupils constricted. The 5 city lords were all ultimate Emperor Realm experts, but they had all died. Did you kill them? The black-robed old man's face was ugly as he stared at Zhuowen, who was holding the bone spear. His eyes were filled with killing intent. This brat was truly audacious. He actually dared to cause trouble here and even killed the 5 city lords. The old man in the black robe had spent a lot of effort to recruit the 5 city lords, but now they had been killed right under his nose. How could he not be angry and hate? Raising his head slightly, Zhuowen sneered and said indifferently, "Yes, so what? One audacious little bastard. How dare you cause trouble here? Don't you know the power of the Marquis of Baichuan? You'll suffer if you offend us." Su Nu immediately shouted at Zhuowen from behind the old man. In Su Nu's opinion, the young man below was so young, so he couldn't be very powerful. Now that the law enforcement elder was here, the brat was dead for sure. As a result, he needed to put on a good show before the elder. Zhuowen ignored the clown, Su Nu. Instead, he stared indifferently at the black-robed old man in the sky. He said, "There should be a few ultimate Emperor Realm experts who aren't weaker than you in the prison. Tell them to come out as well. You aren't qualified." The old man in the black robe frowned when he heard that. His brows furrowed even more when he saw the corpses of the 5 city lords. It was very likely that the 5 city lords had been killed by the young man before him, so he dared not be careless. Who do you think you are? You want the elders to come at you together? Who gave you the guts? There's no need for the elders to do anything. I, Su Nu, can kill you myself. What an arrogant little bastard. Su Nu immediately became furious when he sensed Zhuowen's disregard. He pointed at Zhuowen and hurled a barrage of insults and mockery at him. He didn't hold back at all with his words. Who do I think I am? Do you think you have a right to say that? Finally, Zhuowen slowly turned his head and stared coldly at Su Nu. An intimidating presence surged out like a volcanic eruption. The surrounding air surged and formed layers of tornadoes. Many of the soldiers in the surroundings were pushed back by Zhuowen's powerful presence. Ultimate Emperor, Realm Cultivator? The moment Zhuowen's aura erupted, the black-robed elder's pupils shrank to the size of needles. His face was filled with disbelief. This youth before him was probably even younger than Lve Tao, but he had already reached the pinnacle Emperor realm. What kind of freak was this? Su Nu's voice also came to an abrupt halt. He stared at Zhuo when below as a trace of bitterness appeared on his face. He had never imagined that this young man would actually be an ultimate 5-wheel emperor who was not any weaker than the law enforcement elder. Humph! You've reached the ultimate emperor realm at such a young age. Your talent is indeed terrifying, but I'm afraid you don't have a right to make those two in prison come out. The old man in the black robe snorted coldly. I don't have the right. Zhuowen shook his head. He stomped his foot and instantly disappeared. Unknowingly, he had appeared behind Su Nu and the old man in the black robe. He flung the bone spear in his hand. It traversed through space and pierced Su Nu's back. Spurt! Blood spurted out from the bone spear. Su Nu's eyes widened and filled with fear. His expression gradually dimmed. He hadn't expected this young man to attack him. The black-robed old man could not help but break out in a cold sweat as he sensed the gradual loss of life around him and Zhuowen who was glaring at him from behind. He was actually unable to clearly see how Zhuowen had appeared behind him. Could it be that he was still hiding his strength? Tap, tap, tap. The old man in the black robe hurriedly retreated several hundred meters. He stared at Zhuowen with extreme fear. This young man was clearly only an ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator, but he gave off an unfathomable feeling. Do I have the right now? With a flick of the bone spear, Su Nu's corpse fell to the ground. Zhuowen stared at the old man in the black robe 100 meters away and enunciated each word clearly. The old man in the black robe narrowed his eyes, and his expression grew more solemn. However, he still had a glimmer of hope in his heart. He believed that Zhuowen might be stronger than him, but not by much. There was no need to ask the two people in the prison for this kind of thing. All of you attack. Kill this young man, and our House of Marquis, Baichuan, will not treat you unfairly. We will even promote you. If you shrink back, you and your families will not be able to escape the pursuit of our House of Marquis Baichuan. With a cold snort, the old man in the black robe immediately shouted at the tens of thousands of soldiers below. The strength that Zhuowen had displayed had indeed exceeded his expectations. However, in his opinion, with the support of tens of thousands of elite troops, Zhuowen was no match for him. The tens of thousands of soldiers below all paled when they heard this. They hadn't expected the old man in the black robe to be so ruthless as to threaten them with their families. However, many of the soldiers were quite tempted by the old man's promise. The House of Marquis Baichuan was one of the super forces. If they could be promoted to the House of Marquis Baichuan, it would be an absolute honor. Kill. As long as we kill this man, we will enjoy glory, splendor, and wealth. This young man must die. For the future of our families, this young man must die. Earth-shattering roars rang out from the tens of thousands of soldiers. Under the leadership of the old man in the black robe, the morale of these soldiers was greatly boosted. Zhuowen, what should we do? There are so many soldiers. Qiu Chao's face was filled with fear as he looked at the approaching soldiers. Just a bunch of pitiful worms who have been instigated. Zhuowen shook his head. Shortly after, he stomped his foot and 4 different colored earth fires slowly swept out from his body. There were the 9 heavens thunder inferno flame, the 3,000 azure lotus flame, the star flame, and the blood flame. Although Zhuowen currently possessed 6 types of earth fires, he didn't want to expose the east-rising purple cloud and the 9 nether cold flame that he had just subdued. In fact, the 4-colored refining flames were enough to deal with these weak soldiers. Fuse. 4-colored refining flames. As his hands formed a seal, the 4 different colored earth fires immediately gathered in Zhuowen's palms and turned into 4 flames that were constantly alternating. Boom! The 4 colored flames suddenly surged out. With Zhuowen as the center, it actually formed a monstrous sea of fire that soared into the sky and spread out in all directions. What is this? Why is this flame so strange? My feet are actually being burned. It's so painful. Run. This is not a simple flame. It's not something we can deal with. If we don't run, we will die. As the sea of fire swept out, 1/3 of the soldiers, which was close to 10,000, were directly burned into ashes by the terrifying heat the moment they came into contact with the sea of fire. They died without a complete corpse. A terrifying aura spread out. The remaining soldiers screamed and fled in all directions. This young man was not human at all. The sea of fire that he released with a wave of his hand actually killed 1/3 of their forces. It was too terrifying. Chapter 588. Breaking into the prison, the black-robed elder's pupils shrank. Zhuowen's strength had once again exceeded his expectations. 1/3 of the tens of thousands of elite troops had been wiped out in an instant. 4 types of earth fire? The black-robed elder involuntarily exclaimed. Boom! Seeing the fire dragon whizzing towards him, the black-robed old man shook his sleeve and a powerful energy surged out, transforming into a yuan power shield in front of him. The fire dragon smashed onto the shield, emitting a clear sound of metal clashing against metal. Humph! With a groan, the black-robed elder retreated as blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He looked at the fire dragon in horror. The fire dragon formed by the 4 colored flames was so powerful. 5-wheeled golden claw. The black-robed elder's face darkened slightly. He reached out with his claw, and a huge golden claw that was a few hundred feet long appeared behind him. It slammed down fiercely. Boom! The giant claw and the fire dragon collided. Countless flames and magma surged as a powerful shockwave spread out. The surrounding airwaves swirled and the air shook. It was like a monstrous disaster, and the two were in a deadlock. Humph! You're just SOSO. Seeing the 5-wheeled golden claw blocking the fire dragon, the black-robed elder let out a sigh of relief and snorted. When Zhuowen had appeared behind him and soon knew like a ghost, he had thought that Zhuowen's strength was far greater than his. Now it seemed that he had thought too much. Perhaps Zhuowen had a powerful movement skill that allowed him to appear behind him without anyone noticing. Just SOSO. He frowned. It seemed that the black-robed elder was not weak to be able to block the 4 colored flames. With a snort, Zhuowen pinched his left hand, and the Ice Saint rune on the back of his hand lit up. A blue crystal slowly appeared. It was the body of the extreme cold ice. You can block the 4 colored flames, but I don't know if you can block the 4 colored lotus. Zhuowen sneered and waved his left hand. The blue crystal exploded, and a boundless blue cold chi surged out. It was like maggots that crawled to the bones, merging with the fire dragon in the sky. CI. The sound of something burning could be heard. After the blue cold air rushed in, the huge fire dragon shrank and turned into a huge 4-colored lotus flower that was thousands of feet long. Rumble! The 4-colored lotus flower sat in the void and then bloomed brilliantly. An earth-shattering explosion soared into the sky, dyeing the whole world into a terrifying sea of fire. Kacha! The sea of fire spread out, and a terrifying power erupted. The 5-wheeled golden claws were directly shattered into pieces, and a golden rain fell from the sky. The 5 rings of golden claws were broken, and the terrifying explosive force came down like a hot knife through butter, directly hitting the black-robed elder. Pucci! The black-robed elder could not resist at all. Under such terrifying power, He was like a powerless butterfly with broken wings. He fell down and smashed into the ground, creating a huge crater. Whoosh! Zhuan arrived at the crater in an instant. He raised his right hand and picked up the black-robed elder, who was severely injured and twitching in the crater. He said with a cold gaze, "Now, do I have the right to ask the two people in the prison to come out?" The black-robed elder's eyes were filled with fear, and he spat out blood. However, he still held on and said, "The two people in the prison are stronger than me. If you dare to kill me, you will die miserably. I don't want to listen to your nonsense. Since you don't want to say anything, I will just barge in." As he spoke, Zhuan directly carried the black-robed old man and called out to Cho, who was standing nearby in a daze. After that, he walked towards the black prison at the center of the ruins. He wanted to see exactly what kind of trash the two experts that the black-robed old man spoke of were. Cho hurriedly followed. His gaze was focused on the black-robed elder in Zhuan's hand. He still had a look of disbelief on his face. Although he knew that Zhuan was strong, he did not expect him to be this strong. The black-robed elder was the law-enforcing elder of the Marquis of Baichuan's house. His strength was at the early stage of the ultimate emperor realm. To Cho, he was a lofty existence. But now, he had been easily defeated by Zhuan. Moreover, he was being held in his hand like a chicken. This made Chow's heart thump. He was already filled with indescribable shock. Due to Zhuowen's intimidation just now, the soldiers around the black prison had long since fled, and it became exceptionally deserted. Standing at the entrance of the prison, Cho said with a grave expression, "Zhuowen, there are two experts guarding this prison. They were both transferred from the Marquis of Baichuan's house by Su Tianliang. It is said that both of them are at the mid-stage of the ultimate emperor realm. They are much stronger than the guy in your hand, so you have to be careful." Zhuowen nodded when he heard this, and his expression became solemn. Su Tianliang really thought highly of him, Zhuowen. He'd even sent 3 ultimate emperor realm experts to guard this black prison. He'd really put a lot of thought into this. "Lead the way or die." Zhuowen's right hand grabbed the black-robed elder's neck. His voice was incomparably cold, and his tone was filled with dense, killing intent. Sensing the violent aura from Zhuowen, the black-robed elder could not help but gulp. Cold sweat covered his forehead. He knew that if he did not agree, the young man before him would definitely kill him. "If I lead the way, will you let me go?" The black-robed elder still wanted to fight for a bargaining chip. He was worried that after leading the way, Zhuowen would directly kill him. "You have the right to negotiate with me. Either lead the way or die right now." Zhuowen's tone was extremely unyielding. The black-robed elder's eyes narrowed. He snorted coldly, "Put me down first. I'll lead the way." Nodding, Zhuowen released his grip and said indifferently, "Then lead the way quickly." The black-robed old man didn't hesitate and led Zhuowen into the prison. With Zhuowen glaring at him from behind, the black-robed old man didn't dare to act rashly. The young man behind him was much more terrifying than him. If he acted rashly, he wouldn't be able to keep his life. I can't compare to the 2 people in the prison. If they attack, both Cho and Zhuowen will die. At that time, I will naturally be able to escape. Thinking of this, the black-robed elder did not have much resentment. He began to lead the way seriously. At this moment, he placed all his hopes on the 2 people in the prison. The internal structure of the black prison was quite complicated. There were many corridors along the way, like a maze. According to the black-robed elder, the black prison was divided into 3 floors. The first 2 floors were mainly used for the soldiers to rest, and the 3rd floor was the important place to hold the prisoners. Under Zhuowen's urging, the black-robed elder directly led the 2 of them through the first 2 floors and arrived at the 3rd floor. At the junction of the 2nd and 3rd floors was a long corridor. The corridor was pitch black and looked quite gloomy. Walk through this corridor. At the end of the corridor is the place where the prisoners are held. The black-robed elder pointed at the corridor in front of him with his right hand and said indifferently, "Then you continue to lead the way." Zhuowen said slowly. The black-robed elder nodded. The moment he turned around and entered the corridor, A strange look flashed across his eyes. The footsteps of the three people slowly sounded in the deep corridor. It sounded strange and loud. Finally, a speck of light appeared at the end of the corridor. The three of them immediately sped up. The moment they walked out of the corridor, an ominous premonition rose from the bottom of Zhuowen's heart. Soon after, the sound of something tearing through the air sounded out one after another. "Danger!" Zhuowen shouted loudly. The strong sense of danger made Zhuowen involuntarily pat the demon-suppressing green coffin on his back. Immediately, the demon-suppressing green coffin expanded several times and directly stood in front of Zhuowen and Xiuqiu. Ding, ding, ding. The ear-piercing sound of metal clashing continuously resounded in the entire space. Only then did Zhuowen and Xiuqiu realize that the sky above them was filled with arrows like a rain of rain. Every single arrow was suffused with a ghastly cold light, and its surface was overflowing with light. Just by looking at the aura it emitted, it was actually an earth-rank spirit treasure. Even Zhuowen couldn't help but be shocked when he was enveloped by so many earth-rank spirit treasure arrows. With so many earth-rank soul treasure arrows, even a fifth-wheel ultimate emperor would probably be doomed if they were hit. If it were not for Zhuowen's quick reaction, he and Xiuqiu really would have suffered heavy losses. Damn it, that bastard! Xiuqiu's eyes were currently spitting fire. He could not help but curse fiercely. Needless to say, the main culprit who had led them here was the black-robed elder. The black-robed elder had never planned to bring them to the place where the captives were kept. Instead, he had lured them to such a dangerous place. He was probably planning to capture the two of them in one fell swoop. The rain of arrows lasted for a quarter of an hour before the space returned to silence. Zhuowen slowly put away the demon-suppressing green coffin. His expression was not very good. He had not expected the black-robed elder to be so bold as to actually dare to trick him. This was a sealed space surrounded by iron walls. There were thumb-sized holes in the walls. The rain of arrows should have come from these holes. The quality of your coffin is pretty good. It can actually block the attack of so many arrows. The black-robed elder crossed his arms on the other side of the space. He stared in surprise at the unscathed Zhuowen and Xiuqiu. The rain of arrows were all earth-rank soul treasures, but they had all been blocked by the strange green coffin in front of Zhuowen. It seemed that the green coffin was not simple. At the same time, there were two other elders of similar age standing beside the black-robed elder. One of them had a long beard and looked amiable, while the other elder had a cold expression. These two elders should be the palace elders that Su Tianliang had arranged to guard this prison. Moreover, they were both mid-stage Ultimate Emperor Realm experts. They were much stronger than the black-robed elder. You should be Zhuowen, right? Other than Xiuqiu, only you, the monstrous genius Zhuowen, will be able to come all the way here to save Vine Armor City and Broken Rock City. The amiable elder smiled as he stared at Zhuowen. It seems that you know quite a lot. Zhuowen was rather surprised. There weren't many people who knew that he, Zhuowen, had broken through the Essence Tower. This amiable old man was able to guess his identity just by guessing. It seemed that he wasn't simple. I really didn't expect this. You actually came out alive after entering the Blood Demon Inheritance. It seems that your luck is not bad. Chapter 589. The Fiends of Yin and Yang. Actually, the amiable-looking old man was rather shocked when he guessed that the young man before him was Zhuowen. He hadn't expected Zhuowen to actually make it out of the Blood Demon's inheritance. The pupils of the black-robed old man and the cold and indifferent old man shrunk upon hearing this. The two of them did not expect that Zhuowen had actually survived. This involuntarily caused the two of them to be shocked. However, there was more killing intent in their hearts. Zhuowen had killed Su Liang and caused Su Tianliang to miss out on an ancient inheritance. He had made the house of Marquis Baichuan a laughingstock in the battle for the Vitality Tower. Everyone in the house of Marquis Baichuan didn't have a good impression of Zhuowen. The amiable-looking old man is called Su Sheng, and the cold-looking old man is called Su Ming. They're rather famous in the house of Marquis Baichuan. They're known as the Fiends of Yin and Yang. Zhuowen, you have to be careful. Although they're only at the mid-stage of the Ultimate Emperor realm, they seem to have cultivated some sort of combination technique called the yin-yang lightning technique. It's said that they can use yin-yang lightning and fuse them into a terrifying special lightning. The fiends of yin and yang once fought against a late-stage Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator without losing. Their existence is comparable to a late-stage Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. Cho looked at the two old men in front of him fearfully as he introduced them to Zhuowen in a low voice. Clearly, the fiends of yin and yang were extremely famous. Otherwise, Cho wouldn't be so cautious. A combination comparable to a late-stage Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator? Zhuowen didn't dare to be careless when he saw how cautious Cho was. We originally thought that you would die in the Blood Demon's inheritance, Zhuowen. It looks like we've underestimated you. However, since you've delivered yourself to our doorstep today, it's a perfect opportunity for us to catch you all in one fell swoop. If we bring your head back to the house of Marquis Baichuan, the eldest prince, and the Marquis will probably be happy. Su Ming licked his lips with a cold expression. His voice was filled with cruelty. They had naturally seen the battle between the black-robed old man and Zhuowen. In their opinion, Zhuowen was quite strong, but he was only comparable to a mid-stage ultimate king. When the yin-yang fiends joined forces, they weren't even afraid of a late-stage Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. Taking down Zhuowen would be a piece of cake. Su Sheng, you don't need to talk nonsense with this little bastard. Let's just take it down together. It's said that the crown prince loves to torture people to death. If we capture this Zhuowen, cripple his cultivation, and then hand him over to the crown prince, I'm afraid we'll be able to earn more merits. Su Ming chuckled, and his gaze was filled with disdain towards Zhuowen. As far as he was concerned, taking down Zhuowen was merely a trivial matter. You're right. If we take down Zhuowen and Cho, we'll have enough people. When the time comes, we can go back and report on our mission. Su Sheng nodded with a smile. The two of them exchanged questions and answers. They didn't take Zhuowen seriously at all. Perhaps in their opinion, although Zhuowen's strength wasn't bad, it might not be enough to deal with them. Therefore, they didn't care too much about Zhuowen. Zhuowen only quietly watched the conversation between Su Sheng and Su Ming. His face was filled with a cold smile. These two people were really confident. They were actually openly discussing how to torture Su Tianliang after capturing him. This made Zhuowen feel even more disgusted with the house of Marquis Baichuan. Shaking his head, Zhuowen took a step forward and instantly activated the lightning serpent wings and lightning serpent wings. His entire body turned into a ball of lightning as his speed soared to the extreme. He actually swept behind Su Sheng and Su Ming. Su Sheng and Su Ming were engrossed in their conversation and didn't pay attention to Zhuowen's actions at all. At this moment, the loud rumbling of thunder immediately attracted their attention. When they noticed that Zhuowen had unknowingly appeared behind them, they were instantly shocked. At this moment, the black-robed old man standing behind Su Sheng and Su Ming looked at Zhuowen with a face full of terror. He couldn't help but shout, "Elders, quickly save me! How dare you!" Su Sheng and Su Ming shouted at the same time. Their palms suddenly blasted behind them in an attempt to stop the audacious Zhuowen. Unfortunately, Zhuowen was too fast. With two pairs of lightning wings, Zhuowen's speed was much faster than an ordinary Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. Lightning flashed through the air and instantly dodged Su Sheng and Su Ming's attacks. He instantly arrived before the black-robed old man and extended his right hand, wanting to lift the old man up. "It won't be that easy to kill me." A trace of coldness flashed through the black-robed old man's eyes. He knew that as long as he blocked Zhuowen's attack, Su Sheng and Su Ming would be able to arrive and save him. Quintuple Wheel Vajra Claw. The black-robed old man once again used his trump card armor skill. An enormous golden claw tore through the air and pressed down towards Zhuowen. "The same move doesn't have the slightest effect on me," Zhuowen sneered. All 360 acupoints in his body opened at the same time. Instantly, his entire body was filled with blazing golden light. He had used the nirvana of the Grand Sun break. A crisp crack resounded as the golden claw was directly shattered. The black-robed old man let out a muffled groan and spat out a mouthful of blood. He hurriedly begged for mercy. Zhuowen, spare me. I didn't mean to bring you here. As long as you spare me, I'll take you to where the real captives are. Do you think I'll still believe you? I originally intended to let you go, but unfortunately, you didn't seize the opportunity. What's the use of regretting it now? Zhuowen's voice was icy cold like 10,000-year-old ice. The black-robed old man was directly blasted into a bloody mist as the golden fist smashed down. He was completely dead. Damn it. You Zhuowen, you actually dare to kill someone right under our noses. You're really tired of living. Die for this old man. At this moment, Su Sheng and Su Ming arrived as well. They both struck out with their palms. A powerful force surged out and blasted down on Zhuowen's head. The force was so powerful that it shattered the space. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. He stomped his feet and used his lightning wings to transform into a lightning shadow. He just happened to dodge this terrifying attack. You run faster than a mouse. Su Ming's eyes widened in anger as he snorted coldly. The lightning shadow flashed, and Zhuowen returned to Qiu Chou's side. He looked at them and transmitted his voice to Qiu Chou. Senior Qiu Chou, leave this place and find where the real captives are. Leave these two to me. Qiu Chou was stunned when he heard this. He hesitated for a moment before saying, Zhuowen, are you sure you can deal with these two? If Su Ming and Su Sheng join forces, their strength can rival a late-stage Ultimate Emperor realm martial artist. That black-robed old man can't compare to them. Don't worry, even the blood demon's inheritance couldn't kill me. Do you think these two old farts can kill me? You should hurry and find my grandfather and the others. I'm afraid these two have a backup plan and will transfer them away. When that time comes, I'm afraid it'll be difficult to find them. Zhuowen's tone was somewhat anxious. He was extremely worried about Zhuo, Xiangding, and the others. With Su Tianliang's hatred for him, the Zhuo family would probably be tortured. He only hoped that Zhuo Xiangding and his family would be fine. All right, then be careful. If you can't defeat them, it's best to escape. Don't risk your life. Qiu Chou knew what Zhuowen was thinking. He also knew that with his current strength, he would be a burden if he stayed by Zhuowen's side. Therefore, he agreed decisively. With that, Qiu Chou stomped his foot and turned around to rush towards the tunnel behind him. Where do you think you're going? Today, the two of you can forget about leaving this place. Die. Su Ming glared and suddenly slapped out with his palm. He wanted to block Qiu Chou's back. With me here, do you think you'll succeed? Zhuowen sneered. He swung the bone spear in his hand and used the ascending dragon style to block Su Ming's attack. Su Ming also retreated because of this. His gaze became serious as he looked at Zhuowen. This kid is not simple. Su Ming, be careful. Su Sheng frowned slightly. Although Zhuowen's aura was only at the initial stage of the ultimate Five Wheels Emperor stage, the strength he displayed was completely extraordinary. He was actually able to force Su Ming back with a single move. This kid is indeed a little strange. Let's join forces. Su Ming also nodded. In his heart, he began to fear Zhuowen. Looks like it was not a fluke that this person was able to kill the black-robed old man in front of their eyes. Instead, he was truly capable. Yin and Yang lightning create the world. Su Sheng and Su Ming shouted in a low voice. Two different colored lightning surged out from their bodies. White lightning surged out from Su Sheng's body, while black lightning surged out from Su Ming's body. The black and white lightning intertwined and turned into a spinning disk of lightning. For a moment, the black and white lightning wreaked havoc in the entire space. The powerful force almost collapsed the surrounding iron walls. Its power was extremely terrifying. Zhuowen, there are many people who can make us Yin and Yang fiends use Yin and Yang lightning. Back then, we've killed many cultivators of the same level and even seriously injured an ultimate Five Wheels Emperor stage cultivator. It's not too late for you to regret now. As long as you break your own arms, we'll spare your life and take you back to the Marquis House of Baichuan. How about it? Su Sheng was still smiling, and his tone was amiable. However, the words he said were extremely vicious. Asking him to break his own arms and go back to the marquee house of Baichuan with them was no different from suicide. Are the two of you pigs? Break your own arms and go back to the marquee house of Baichuan with you? Even a pig wouldn't agree to this condition. Or is your brain worse than a pig's? Zhuowen looked at Su Sheng as if he was looking at an idiot. He looked at the smiling Su Sheng and said something that almost made Su Sheng choke. Zhuowen's mouth was too venomous. He actually called the two of them pigs. It seems like you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Then we can only take your corpse back. What a pity. We originally wanted to let you live a little longer. You're courting death. Su Ming sneered. The two of them looked at each other and formed a complicated seal with their hands. The yin and yang tai chi lightning in the sky cut through the void and swept directly towards Zhuowen. Courting death? I don't think so. Looking at the menacing yin and yang tai chi lightning, Zhuowen sneered and patted the green coffin on his back with his right hand. Creek. Chapter 590. The Zhua family that was taken away as the terrifying pressure descended. The entire space froze. Su Sheng and Su Ming's faces were still filled with shock. This terrifying pressure actually made them tremble with fear. The Taiji yin-yang thunderbolt in the air was completely frozen by this pressure. Then, it exploded into countless black and white thunderbolts. What? The Taiji yin-yang thunderbolt was broken just like that? Su Ming and Su Sheng were shocked when they saw the black and white thunderbolts explode from the pressure. How could this pressure be so terrifying? It wasn't something that an ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator could possess. Thud, thud, thud. The crisp sound of footsteps slowly rang out. Zhuowen slowly walked over with a green coffin on his back. His hair was disheveled like stars, and his eyes were like the moon. The pressure he exuded was like a ferocious beast. It gradually pressed down on the two of them like a towering mountain. It actually made them feel as if their movements were stagnant. Damn it, we can't let this guy get close. Otherwise, this pressure will suppress our strength to the greatest extent. Let's work together to get rid of this guy. Su Sheng could already feel the threat from Zhuowen. He also realized that the pressure was becoming more and more terrifying as Zhuowen approached. If they let Zhuowen get close to them, they probably wouldn't even be able to use 70% of their strength. Taiji yin-yang thunderbolt, overturn the world. The two of them growled again. Their hand seals suddenly changed. Two black and white thunderbolts that were even more terrifying than before suddenly surged out. They formed a Taiji yin-yang diagram that was several hundred meters tall in the air. Surging black and white thunderbolts revolved around the Taiji yin-yang diagram and wantonly spread out. Zhuowen, you must die this time. The two of them clearly intended to fight with their lives on the line. They could feel the terror of the pressure released by Zhuowen. If Zhuowen was allowed to get close to them, the possibility of them losing was too high. Zhuowen still walked over leisurely. He could feel the fear on Su Sheng and Su Ming's faces. Zhuowen also increasingly felt the terror of the blood demon's pressure. He had only opened a crack, but it was enough to make Su Sheng and Su Ming, both ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators, so cautious. However, Zhuowen also discovered that a portion of the pressure was also acting on him. However, compared to Su Sheng and Su Ming, it was much smaller. No wonder Brother Han Tian only allowed me to open a third of the demon-suppressing green coffin. It turns out that there are certain side effects, and 1/3 should be the limit that I can endure. Recalling Lu Hantian's advice, Zhuowen couldn't help but nod. Lu Hantian was worthy of being an Empyrean powerhouse. He had seen through Zhuowen's depths with a single glance and put forward the most appropriate suggestion. Boom! Above the void, after the yin-yang tai chi thunderbolt was formed, it smashed down on Zhuowen like layers of mountains. The surrounding space was torn apart, and it was filled with surging electricity. It was unstoppable. Raising his head, Zhuowen revealed a mocking smile. He wanted to see just how strong the blood demon's pressure was today. Zhuowen's right hand patted the green coffin on his back once more, and the coffin lid opened by a sliver. This time, the coffin lid opened by a tenth, and a pressure that was several times more terrifying than the previous one surged out, crushing down. Zhuan also felt his body sink, and his knees buckled slightly. His guess was right. The more the coffin lid was opened, the more terrifying the pressure he had to endure. Boom, boom, boom. The yin-yang Tai Chi thunderbolt that was hundreds of feet long came crushing down. However, the moment Zhuan increased the pressure, the yin-yang Tai Chi thunderbolt actually collapsed inch by inch, turning into fine electricity. Plop! When the extremely terrifying pressure descended, Su Sheng and Su Ming were inexplicably shocked. They involuntarily knelt on one knee on the ground and could only use about half of their strength. The pressure was so fierce that it made the two of them feel terrified. How is this possible? How can you, an ultimate five-wheel emperor, have such a terrifying pressure? How did you do it? How did you do it? Su Ming's eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at Zhuan, who was slowly walking over. Thud, thud, thud. The two of them wanted to raise their hands to block, but the pressure on their bodies was so terrifying that they couldn't even breathe or exert any strength. They could only watch as Zhuan's bone spear ruthlessly smashed into their chests. Thud! Spitting out mouthfuls of blood, the two of them flew back at the same time, smashing into the iron wall behind them. They smashed into a human-shaped pit, and their entire bodies were embedded in it. The two of you should go down to the underworld and ask such questions. Shaking his head, Zhuan's figure flashed past, and the bone spear turned into a cold light in midair, sweeping past the two's necks. Blood immediately spurted out, but Su Sheng and Su Ming could only hold their necks tightly, looking at Zhuan with unwillingness. They were really unwilling to accept this. They hadn't even used their full strength, but they were actually killed by Zhuan just like that. This loss was really too humiliating. Bang! Putting away his spear, Zhuan patted the coffin with his right hand, and the coffin lid, which was originally opened by a tenth, slowly closed. Before Su Sheng and Su Ming died, they also saw the green coffin slowly closing on Zhuan's back, and the pressure that disappeared as the green coffin closed. The two of them finally knew where the pressure had come from. It turned out that it was the inconspicuous coffin on Zhuan's back. What exactly is that green coffin on Zhuan's back? What kind of monster is sealed in that green coffin? Why does it produce such a terrifying pressure? This was the only question that Su Sheng and Su Ming had before they died, and it was also their last question. Looks like the power of the Blood Demon is your biggest gain from this trip to the inheritance of the Blood Demon. This Blood Demon is indeed an ancient saint-level creature. If you can make good use of this pressure, you can easily defeat someone stronger than you. Suddenly, Xiao Hei's voice, which had been silent for a long time, rang out in his mind. Xiao Hei, you finally spoke. You didn't respond all this time. Could it be that you've been refining the Blood Demon's origin all this time? Hearing Xiao Hei's voice, Zhuan couldn't help but ask excitedly. Yes, this Dragon Lord has been in a semi-conscious state all this time, refining the Blood Demon's origin. The Blood Demon's origin is indeed enormous. This Dragon Lord spent a month and only absorbed a small part of it. It's really powerful. Xiao Hei said again, her voice filled with joy. Then if you completely refine it, will you be able to fully recover? Zhuan knew that Xiao Hei's identity was extremely unusual. She was a freak that had survived from the ancient times. Her strength at her peak was probably extremely terrifying. If Xiao Hei could recover to her peak, wouldn't she be able to carry him around? Kid, what are you smiling foolishly for? Although the Blood Demon's origin is powerful, to completely recover this Dragon Lord's origin is like a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. You still have to collect sacred runes in the future. Those things are the most important to this Dragon Lord. Xiao Hei snorted. All right then. Hearing this, Zhuan was slightly disappointed. However, he was even more curious about Xiao Hei. The Blood Demon's origin was so enormous, but to Xiao Hei, it was like a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. Then, wouldn't Xiao Hei be a creature of a much higher level than the Blood Demon? Zhuan, I've already found everyone. Quickly come and join us, okay? Suddenly, an imprint on Zhuan's palm lit up. This was the sound transmission imprint that Xiuqiu had left on his hand. It could be used to transmit messages over long distances. Hearing this, Zhuan's face lit up with joy. He took a step forward and rushed towards a place that Qiuqiu had marked. It turned out that the place where the prisoners were imprisoned was not on the 3rd floor, but on the 1st floor. The black-robed old man who had led the way had no intention of bringing them to the place where the prisoners were imprisoned. On the contrary, he had planned to kill Zhuan and Qiuqiu. However, the black-robed old man had never imagined that Zhuan would actually be so strong. Not only had he lost his life, even Su Sheng and Su Ming had perished at Zhuowen's hands. This was truly a double loss. After passing through many corridors, Zhuan arrived at the 1st floor and quickly found the place that Qiuqiu had mentioned. This was an extremely remote room. It was very narrow inside, cold and damp. Rows of cages had been set up in this room. At this moment, these cages had basically been destroyed. At this moment, a group of people had gathered in the center of the room. The person in the lead was Qiuqiu. Behind Qiuqiu, Zhuan saw many familiar faces, such as Ouyang Yintu, Ouyang Hanxian, Gu Tian, Gu Exen, and others. However, after gradually sweeping past the faces of this group of people, Zhuan's heart slowly sank. This was because he realized that in this group of people, other than the people from Broken Rock City, there were also people from the governor's mansion of Rotan Armor City and the human sect. However, there was no one from his Zhuo family. Qiuqiu came to Zhuan with a face full of shame and said, "Zhuan, I'm sorry, your Zhuo family isn't here." It said that Su Tianliang brought them back to the marquis of Baichuan's mansion alone. I'm afraid they're in a bad situation. Boom. Hearing this, Zhuan's mind went blank. He also didn't expect that his Zhuo family would be taken away by Su Tianliang. With the degree of hatred that Su Tianliang had for him, he didn't know what he would do to his family. Su Tian Liang. Clenching his fists, the veins on Zhuan's forehead bulged. His voice was like a beast's roar. This Su Tianliang had repeatedly challenged Zhuan's bottom line. This had already caused Zhuan's heart to be filled with monstrous killing intent. This person must be killed by Zhuan. Senior Qiu, when did Su Tianliang take our Zhuo family? Taking a deep breath, Zhuan asked in a low voice. Half a month ago, with Su Tianliang's speed, he should have arrived at the marquis of Baichuan's mansion in the prefecture capital. Zhuan, don't do anything stupid. The marquis of Baichuan's mansion is extremely powerful in the prefecture capital. Don't be impulsive and barge into the marquis of Baichuan's mansion. Qiuqiu also felt Zhuan's anger. He was worried that Zhuan would let his emotions affect his decisions and go to the marquis of Baichuan's mansion alone. That was simply courting death. Chapter 591. Mysterious Youth Zhuan shook his head. He had to go to the Baichuan marquis mansion this time. He didn't care about Su Tianliang, but this guy shouldn't have dared to touch the Zhuo family. How could Zhuan tolerate it? Senior Qiu, you don't have to worry about me. I won't be impulsive when I go to the Baichuan marquis mansion. However, I won't care about the Zhuo family. You should settle the wounded around first. After instructing Qiuqiu, Zhuan waved his right hand and took out the bronze paper kite given by Lu Hantian. It flashed with a green light and turned into a giant green bird. Zhuan jumped up and looked at the people below silently. Then, he turned into a green shadow and disappeared into the sky. Qiuqiu could only nod helplessly. He knew Zhuan's stubborn character very well. Moreover, Zhuan's strength was much more terrifying than his. Even if he wanted to stop him, he wouldn't be able to. As the green shadow flashed, Zhuan's speed soared to the extreme. His eyes were bloodshot and full of murderous intent. Su Tianyang had completely touched Zhuan's bottom line. This time, Zhuan must kill this person. Suddenly, Zhuan frowned. He felt a sharp gust of wind behind him. He quickly pressed his palm on the back of the bronze paper kite and controlled the green bird to change direction. Bang! The strong wind swept past the green bird. Only then did Zhuan realize that this strong wind was actually a huge saber chi that was dozens of feet long. The blade chi swept across and blasted the dense forest below. Suddenly, it was earth-shattering. Hundreds of miles of dense forest collapsed and turned into a huge bear pit. Who is it? How dare you stop me? Seeing that horrifying saber chi, Zhuo Wen's eyelids twitched. He stopped 100 meters away and looked behind him with a cold gaze. He saw a stout man carrying a 3-meter-long saber on his back walking through the air. Moreover, as this person walked through the air, countless saber chi formed around his body. The saber chi raged and turned into a storm of saber chi that surrounded this person. This person was definitely an expert. Furthermore, he was an extremely horrifying expert. To think that he was able to produce such a horrifying saber chi with just a raise of his hand. This was the manifestation of a saber technique that had reached the pinnacle. What shocked Zhuo even more was that he couldn't see through the aura of this man with a huge blade. This could only mean one thing, and that was that this man's cultivation was far above Zhuo's. This person is at least a 6-wheel ultimate emperor. Zhuo became more and more fearful as he looked at the burly young man. This person's age was about the same as LV Tao's, but the aura he exuded was even more terrifying than LV Tao's. This person was definitely a genius, more terrifying than LV Tao. When did such a terrifying genius appear in the house of Marquis Qin? Who are you? Why are you stopping me? Zhuo asked in a low voice. 100 meters away, the young man with a huge blade on his back slowly stopped. Only then did Zhuo carefully observe his appearance. This person wore clothes made of coarse cloth. His exposed skin was the color of wheat. His muscles were bulging, and he was tall. However, the huge blade on his back was even larger than his body. It looked extremely exaggerated. The young man with the huge blade crossed his arms. He looked at Zhuo with a burning gaze. He said loudly, "I never thought that a monstrous genius like you would appear in the tiny Muqin County. You've reached the 5-wheel ultimate emperor at the age of 19. Your talent is very good. You can rival the geniuses of the imperial family." This person's voice was coarse and wild. Zhuo frowned when he heard this. From this person's words, this person didn't seem to be from Muqin County. Furthermore, he mentioned the imperial family. Could this person be a genius from the imperial capital county? Everyone knew that the greatest power in the Qin Xian Empire was undoubtedly the imperial family of the imperial capital county. Emperor Qing was the protector of the imperial family. The imperial family's position was undoubtedly extremely stable and powerful. However, this person spoke of the imperial family as if it was only natural. He was probably a genius from a great power in the imperial capital county. However, Zhuo was puzzled. Why would such a genius come to Muqin County? Moreover, he even tried to stop him. I said, "Why are you stopping me?" Zhuo didn't want to talk nonsense with the young man with the huge blade and said coldly, "You've mastered spear essence, right? Just now, when you were fighting in the ruins of Broken Rock City, I was watching from a distance. You're a martial artist who has mastered the essence of spear essence. Furthermore, you've mastered spear essence, which is mainly offensive." Speaking of this, the young man with the huge blade's gaze became extremely hot. It was as if he had found a favorite toy, which made Zhuo's scalp tingle. However, the words of the young man with the huge blade shocked Zhuo. This person was indeed not simple. He actually didn't notice this person nearby when he was in the ruins of Broken Rock City. So what if I am? What do you want to do? Did the house of Marquis Baichuan send you to kill me? Zhuo said coldly as he was secretly vigilant. Unexpectedly, the young man with the huge blade shook his head and said, "I don't know the house of Marquis Baichuan that you speak of. I accidentally passed by the ruins of Broken Rock City and saw that you've actually mastered spear essence. So my hands itched and I wanted to ask you for advice." Speaking of this, the young man with the huge blade rubbed his hands and revealed a trace of excitement on his face. Hearing this, Zhuo couldn't help but be speechless. It turned out that this person was a martial arts fanatic. He actually came to ask for advice because of such a trivial matter. Zhuo was actually somewhat speechless. "I have an urgent matter now and need to rush back to the county capital. So, I can't accompany you now." Zhuo cupped his fists and patted the green bird with his right hand. He intended to leave this place, but a blade chi flashed through the void and actually blocked Zhuo's path. "I don't care if you have an urgent matter or not. Today, I must ask you for advice. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving. The young man with the huge blade shook his head and said with a calm expression, "You won't let me go? Just by you?" Looking at the young man with the huge blade repeatedly blocking him, Zhuan was also annoyed. Now that the Zhua family's clansmen had been taken away by Su Tianliang, if he was a step late, his clansmen would be in more danger. How could he waste time here? Huh, just by me? Show me your spear intent. I haven't seen anyone outside of the Imperial City master this kind of intent realm for a long time. Can you broaden my horizons? The young man with the huge blade's eyes blazed. Perhaps because of his excitement, the terrifying blade chi around him began to become chaotic and dense. If a warrior with weaker strength was involved in this blade chi, he would certainly die without a burial place. Zhuan let out a sigh of relief. He knew that the young man with the huge blade in front of him was a martial arts fanatic. In other words, he was a one-track-minded guy. Talking to such a person would be a waste of energy. Zhuan patted the green coffin behind him with his right hand and directly opened it by 1/10. A terrifying pressure burst out like a lofty mountain and directly crushed towards a young man with a huge blade. This pressure, how can it be so strong? Feeling the sudden pressure, the young man with the huge blade narrowed his eyes and cried out in surprise. This pressure was unbelievably strong. It wasn't something that a human warrior could emit. But soon, he laughed heartily and said, "This is the feeling. You're really not ordinary. Although you're a little weak, you have a lot of trump cards. I like it, haha." The young man with the huge blade laughed and stomped his foot. An even more terrifying blade, chi surged out from his body and directly overshadowed the blood demon's pressure. So strong. 1/10 of the pressure was something that even a fifth-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert couldn't withstand, but this person had directly broken it and looked so relaxed. Just how strong was this person? I can't waste time with him. I have to hurry to the Imperial City. With a cold snort, Zhuan slapped the green coffin again. This time, he directly opened it by 1/5 of the gap. Instantly, the pressure in the surroundings increased by several times, instantly breaking through the terrifying saber chi around the young man with the saber. Interesting. It can even strengthen. How interesting. The young man's body sank, but he smiled even more happily. He pulled out the giant saber on his back, and a mysterious and terrifying aura swept out along with the saber chi. It actually blocked the pressure that had been strengthened several times. Concept. This guy is also master concept. What he used just now was blade intent. The moment the young man with the huge blade pulled out his huge blade, Zhuan frowned. This young man with the huge blade was very strong. He actually gave off the feeling of facing a mountain. This person was definitely a monstrous genius, far more monstrous than LVE Tao. Awesome. Awesome. The young man with the huge blade shook his right hand, and the huge blade in his hand poured out like a curtain of rain, faintly showing signs of overpowering the pressure. Zhuan's expression changed abruptly. He said to himself, "I can't drag this out any longer. I have to leave quickly." Thinking of this, Zhuan directly controlled the bronze paper kite. With a whoosh, it turned into a green shadow and disappeared into the horizon. Its speed was almost as fast as it could be. Break! 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 At the same time, the young man with the huge blade slashed out 10 times in a row, each strike fiercer than the last. Although it looked like an ordinary attack, with the support of the mysterious blade intent, its power was terrifying to the extreme. Crack! The surrounding pressure was instantly broken by the terrifying blade force. The young man with the huge blade soared into the sky and laughed wildly. Interesting, interesting. You're clearly just a 5-wheel Ultimate Emperor, but you can actually exert such a terrifying pressure. Let's continue to fight. Where is he? After breaking through the pressure, the young man with the huge blade laughed heartily. Just as he was about to exchange a few more moves with Zhuan, he suddenly realized that the surroundings were empty. Zhuan had already disappeared. That guy just said that he had urgent matters to attend to in the prefecture capital. Could it be that he really went to the prefecture capital? No, I must go find him again. It's rare to meet an opponent with such a temper. I can't miss this chance. With that, the young man with the huge blade put away his huge blade. With a stomp of his foot, countless blade chi swept out. His entire body turned into a ray of flowing light and disappeared into the horizon. If Zhuowen knew that this fellow was like a sticky candy, sticking to him without letting go, how would he feel? 2 days later, Zhuowen, who was riding the bronze paper kite, finally arrived at the prefecture capital. He knew that it was impossible to break in a Marquis Baichuan's residence by himself. He could only ask Lu Hantian for help. Moreover, in these 2 days, Zhuowen seemed to have comprehended something. With the help of the demon-suppressing green coffin, his strength had broken through to the mid-stage of the 5-wheel ultimate emperor realm. Chapter 592. Entering the house of Marquis Qin in the hall on the top floor of the 100-Year Brew restaurant, Lu Hantian was sitting with his legs crossed and leaning against a chair. There were delicacies on both sides of the armrest, while Elder Zhe Wang was rubbing Lu Hantian's shoulders and back with a flattering smile. "Yo, kid, you're back. You're quite fast. It's only been 5 days and you're back. Little Wang, go and greet Master Zhua." Lu Hantian pointed at Zhuowen and said to Elder Zue Wang behind him, "Greetings, Master Zhua." Elder Zue Wang did not dare to be negligent and hurriedly arrived in front of Zhuowen. His face was filled with flattering smiles as he nodded and bowed. His expression was extremely respectful. Looking at Elder Zue Wang's respectful appearance, Zhuowen was too lazy to pay attention to him. He only responded indifferently and arrived in front of Lu Hantian. He said solemnly, "Big brother Hantian, I'm afraid I'll need your help this time." Seeing Zhuowen like this, Lu Hantian no longer sloppily sat up and said, "What's wrong? Didn't you save your family and friends?" "I saved a portion of them. However, my Zhua family was brought back to the Baichuan Marquis mansion by Su Tianliang. I'm afraid I'll have to barge into the Baichuan Marquis mansion this time." Zhuowen sighed. Hearing this, Lu Hantian narrowed his eyes and shook his head. "The Baichuan Marquis mansion is not simple. In my opinion, if you barge in alone, I'm afraid the odds are against you." Frowning slightly, Zhuowen did not expect that even Lu Hantian would say this. Could it be that there was an even more terrifying expert in the Baichuan Marquis mansion other than Su Chong? I must barge into the Baichuan Marquis mansion. My family is still in Su Tianliang's hands. I can't ignore it. Zhuowen shook his head and said somewhat stubbornly. Lu Hantian rubbed his chin with his right hand and pondered for a moment before saying, "How about this? Come back with me to the house of Marquis Qin. I, your big brother, have a way for you to save your family." Zhuowen's eyes flashed. He knew that Lu Hantian was going to help him. As long as Lu Hantian helped him, the chances of saving the Zhua family would be much higher. "Let's go." With that, Lu Hantian waved his sleeve and led Zhuowen away from the century-old brew. Not long after, the two of them arrived at the center of the provincial capital. It was an extremely spacious mansion. This mansion was the famous house of Marquis Qin. Zhuowen was shocked when he saw the dragon-like mansion in front of him. The house of Marquis Qin was indeed worthy of being the #1 faction in Muqin County. Its mansion occupied such a large area that it was even several times larger than a super city. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed to enter. Otherwise, they will be killed without mercy. At the door, 2 armored soldiers with powerful auras flashed their weapons and shouted at Zhuowen and Lu Hantian, "Kill your sister without mercy. Get out of my way. When I was still in the house of Marquis Qin, the 2 of you weren't even born yet." Lu Hantian was extremely domineering. He shouted loudly, and the 2 soldiers in front of the door fell to the ground. Lu Hantian then led Zhuowen into the mansion. Lu Hantian was a genius of the house of Marquis Qin, after all. He was quite familiar with the roads inside the house of Marquis Qin. He led Zhuowen into the depths of the mansion without hesitation. "Let's keep going. We should be able to reach the inner hall of the house of Marquis Qin soon. At that time, we will be able to find Lu Nantian directly," Lu Hantian said as he walked. However, when he mentioned Lu Nantian, Lu Hantian's expression changed. With Zhuan's keen senses, he naturally noticed it. He was also very puzzled. In fact, when Lu Hantian's deeds were different from what Lu Nantian had said, Zhuan suspected that there was something fishy going on. Now, looking at Lu Hantian's expression, he was afraid that the matter back then was not so simple. Although he was extremely puzzled, Zhuan did not ask. He knew that as long as he met Lu Nantian, the truth of what happened back then would be completely revealed. Who are the two of you? Why have I never seen the two of you in the house? Suddenly, a fierce shout came from behind the two of them. It made Zhuan and Lu Hantian's bodies freeze. Moreover, Zhuan discovered that this shout gave him a trace of familiarity. He could not help but think of a person. A strange expression appeared on his face. Turning around, Zhuan discovered that there were about 5 people standing behind him. The person in the lead was wearing a brocade robe. He had a handsome face and a slender figure. It was actually the third prince of the house of Marquis Qin, Lu Yuanhua. The 4 people standing behind Lu Yuanhua were middle-aged men with terrifying auras. Their strength was not weaker than Zhuan. 1 or 2 of them were even stronger than Zhuan. Zhuan? When LV Yuanhua saw Zhuan, who was carrying a green coffin on his back, he couldn't help but be stunned. Then, his face revealed a look of ecstasy, and he laughed complacently. It seems that a bastard like you has a tough life. Even the inheritance of the blood devil could not kill you. However, since you have broken into the house of Marquis Qin today, don't think that you can leave alive. 4 elders. These 2 people have broken into our house of Marquis Qin. We should immediately execute them on the spot to spread the prestige of our house of Marquis Qin. Otherwise, if any small fry can casually break into our house of Marquis Qin in the future, wouldn't it be a mess? The 4 old men nodded when they heard this. They had also heard of Zhua Wen's reputation. Although they were surprised that Zhua Wen was actually able to come out alive, they only thought that he was lucky. Moreover, these 4 elders were in Lu Yuanhua's faction. Now that Lu Yuanhua had spoken, they naturally would not disobey him. I think the 2 of you should tie your hands and come with us. This way, you will suffer less. One of the elders with the most powerful aura strode over. His nose was high, and he was full of disdain for Zhuan and Lu Hantian. In his opinion, the 2 people in front of him were sloppy like a beggar, and the other was carrying a coffin. He was afraid that they were not powerful people. He looked down on them from the beginning. If the 2 of them were obedient and followed him, he could be merciful. However, if they were not obedient, they could not blame him for being ruthless. Zhuan shook his head. He was very clear about Lu Hantian's violent temper. These people had offended him so thoughtlessly. He was afraid that they would suffer later. Seeing that the 2 of them did not say anything, the elder frowned and said, "Are you afraid? Since you are afraid, then come with us. Lowly people like you are not qualified to enter the house of Marquis Qin." Good. A group of dogs who bully others because of their master's power. When did the house of Marquis Qin become like this? How did Lu Nantian manage it in the past 100 years? He raised such a group of dogs who are worse than pigs. Lu Hantian's face was gloomy, and his voice became extremely cold. His eyes were full of coldness and ruthlessness as he stared at the elder. "How dare you scold this old man? You are courting death." The elder's face changed slightly. He stamped his foot and directly hit Lu Hantian with his palm. He wanted to kill this sloppy beggar who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. "Get lost." Lu Hantian waved his sleeve, and a force like rolling thunder surged out. Under this force, the elder could not resist at all. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. He rolled on the ground for nearly 100 meters and then fainted. "What? You dare to touch the people of the house of Marquis Qin? I think you are really courting death." Lu Yuanhua was shocked and angry. He did not expect this sloppy beggar to be so strong. Courting death? Humph. I came here today to look for Lu Nantian. Back then, even Lu Nantian did not dare to be so presumptuous in front of me. You juniors dare to speak to me like this? Lu Hantian waved his sleeve again. Lu Yuanhua and the other 3 elders were forced back, and they spat out a mouthful of blood. "Zhuan, let's go." With that, Lu Hantian ignored Lu Yuanhua and the others and led Zhuowen into the depths of the house of Marquis Qin. There was a huge inner hall in the depths of the house of Marquis Qin. The inner hall was where the Marquis of Muqin usually dealt with matters. In front of the inner hall was an extremely vast square made of white jade. It was sparkling and translucent. There were nearly 100 people neatly lined up in the square. They were all about the same age, young men in their 20s. Their auras were surging, and their cultivations were not lower than the ultimate emperor realm. They were all talented geniuses. Lu Nantian stood above the square with his hands behind his back. His eyes were like torches as he looked at the nearly 100 geniuses in the square below. A trace of satisfaction appeared on his resolute face. These nearly 100 geniuses were naturally the results of the selection of the Origin Chi Tower. Lu Nantian was looking forward to these geniuses achieving good results in the upcoming Battle of the Nine Counties and winning glory for Muqin County. Ding, ding, ding. The crisp sound of footsteps suddenly came from outside the square, causing Lu Nantian to frown slightly. He had instructed that no one was allowed to enter the inner hall without his permission. After all, this was the training ground that he specially used to nurture these geniuses. How could he allow unauthorized people to disturb it? The other geniuses on the square were attracted by the footsteps, causing their gazes to gather toward the source of the footsteps. They were curious to see who was so daring to barge into the inner hall without Lu Nantian's permission. Under the gazes of the crowd, two figures finally appeared in everyone's line of sight. In particular, the young man with the green coffin on his back attracted everyone's attention. Due to the appearance of the young man, the square also descended into a trace of silence. Lu Nantian was also stunned. His eyes were fixed on the young man, and a trace of surprise and disbelief appeared on his face. Lu Hantian, who was standing beside Zhuowen, seemed to have been ignored by everyone at this moment. Everyone was staring at Zhuowen in a daze. It's actually Zhuowen? He didn't die and came out of the blood demon inheritance? You must have heard about the abnormality of the Origin Chi Tower a few days ago, right? It is said that two people broke out of the tower. One of them was carrying a green coffin, while the other looked like a beggar. It seems like they are the two people in front of us. This Zhuowen is too terrifying. Even the blood demon inheritance can't do anything to him. Whispers suddenly resounded in the square like a curtain of rain. Everyone was staring at the young man with the green coffin in shock. Their expressions were different as they discussed spiritedly. Lu Hantian, who was ignored, was extremely unhappy with everyone's neglect. He said loudly, "Lu Nantian, why aren't you getting your ass over here?" Chapter 593. Despicable Lu Hantian. Nearly 100 geniuses looked at the sloppy beggar beside Zhuowen, as if they were looking at an idiot. Who is this guy? He actually dared to tell Marquis Lu to get down. Is his brain flooded with water? What's wrong with Zhuowen? Why did he bring a lunatic here? Many geniuses in the square began to whisper and discuss. Who is Lu Nantian? He is the #1 expert in Muqin County and a powerful 4th revered expert. This sloppy beggar actually dared to speak like this. It seems like he is really courting death. Lu Nantian was not the slightest bit angry. Instead, his body trembled. This voice, this tone, it was so familiar. Could this person be him? Thinking of this, Lu Nantian quickly walked down and arrived in front of Lu Hantian. His sharp eyes stared at the sloppy man in front of him. His expression became more dignified and surprised, and his judgment became more certain. This person is finished. If Marquis Lu gets angry, this person is dead for sure. I'm afraid that Zhuowen is also finished. Bringing such a vulgar person is simply courting death. Let's see how these two will face Marquis Lu's anger. In the square, many geniuses looked at Lu Hantian and Zhuowen with ridicule. There were even some who took pleasure in their misfortune. Zhuowen's performance in the Battle of the Vitality Tower was too stunning. As the saying goes, the hunter will shoot the bird that sticks out. Naturally, many geniuses were jealous of Zhuowen. If Zhuowen had come from superpower, these geniuses wouldn't be so jealous of him. Instead, they would take it as a matter of course. However, Zhuowen just so happened to be a genius from a low-level city. Many powers looked down on him as he came from the weakest low-level city. With such a lowly background, he was able to soar through the Origin Chi Tower, surpassing countless geniuses and breaking numerous records. This was undoubtedly a slap to the faces of many high-level powers. A lowly genius that no one placed in their eyes had actually surpassed them. How could this not arouse hatred and jealousy? Therefore, these people were very willing to see Zhuowen suffer. In fact, they were very eager to see it happen. Big brother, is it really you? You actually came out of the Blood Devil legacy? Suddenly, Lu Nantian grabbed Lu Hantian's shoulders with both hands. His expression became extremely emotional, and his dignified eyes were brimming with tears. This scene caused everyone in the square to be stunned. What was going on? Big brother? Lu Nantian actually called this sloppy beggar Big brother? Was there a mistake? This unkempt man looked like a beggar from head to toe. How could he be the elder brother of Lu Nantian, a county lord? At this moment, everyone was thinking that Lu Nantian must have made a mistake. He must have made a mistake, or he was just messing around. Too mushy. Move aside. Although you're my brother, I don't have that kind of hobby. Get lost. Lu Hantian's words were extremely hateful. The beggar relaxed his shoulders and hurriedly retreated more than 10 meters. He looked at Lu Nantian with disdain. Instantly, countless people fell to the ground. This beggar was too despicable. What kind of person was Lu Nantian? It was an honor for him to pat you on the shoulder. He actually showed such an expression. Many people in the square almost couldn't bear it and went up to slap this beggar. Ha! Big brother, you really haven't changed at all. You are still the Lu Hantian from back then, haha. Lu Nantian didn't care. Lu Hantian's behavior showed that he didn't treat him as an outsider. Hiss! Lu Hantian, the peerless genius of Muqing County 100 years ago, Lu Hantian. Once Lu Nantian's words came out, countless people in the square sucked in a breath of cold air. They couldn't believe that this guy in front of them was the peerless genius that countless geniuses worshipped. This really blinded everyone's eyes. The originally grand image of Lu Hantian in countless people's imaginations had completely collapsed at this moment. All that was left in their minds was this old beggar without any image to speak of. 5 days ago, the abnormality in the Yuan Chi Tower should have been caused by you and Zhuowen, right? Lu Nantian said with a smile. Lu Hantian nodded and quickly pulled Zhuowen over. He said, "It seems like you also know Zhuowen. However, this kid is now my brother. In the future, he will also be your brother. You have to treat him well." Zhuowen calls Nantian second brother. Black lines immediately appeared on Zhuowen's face as he looked at the somewhat awkward Lu Nantian in front of him. He was filled with helplessness. Lu Nantian was the lord of county. There weren't many people who could call such a person brother. Zhuowen couldn't help but feel that it was a little strange that a mere ultimate Emperor realm cultivator would actually call Lu Nantian brother. What? You don't want to? Lu Hantian glared at him and coldly snorted. Lu Nantian shook his head. He is very clear about Lu Hantian's temperament, so he smiled and cupped his fist toward Zhuowen and said, "Zhuowen, since you are Big Brother's brother, then you are also my, Nantian's brother. You are younger than me, so I will call you third brother." The conversation between Lu Hantian and Lu Nantian was naturally heard by many geniuses in the square. Immediately, all of them rolled their eyes. What the hell was going on? Zhuowen had become Lu Nantian's brother just like that. Wasn't this too much of a joke? All of the geniuses felt their balls ache. Are these brats the ones you are preparing to participate in the Battle of the Nine Counties? Lu Hantian's gaze landed on the square as he pointed at the group of geniuses and said arrogantly. Lu Nantian was as calm as still water as he smiled. Yes, the geniuses in this year's Origin Chi Tower battle are much stronger than the previous one. I believe that our Muqing County will achieve a good result in this Battle of the Nine Counties. Perhaps more than 10 geniuses will enter the Azure Emperor ranking. Yes, indeed, but since you have trained these brats like this, you should be their master. Come, I am your master's big brother. In any case, I am also your martial uncle. Come and pay your respects to your martial uncle. Lu Hantian was here to act cheap again. He took a few steps and stood on the square. After a quarter of an hour, he made several poses. Finally, he chose a pose that he thought was the most handsome and stood there waiting for the geniuses to pay their respects. All of the geniuses were speechless. This Luhan Tian was too cheap. They really wanted to go up and give him a slap, but they didn't dare. Even Lu Nantian didn't dare to be impudent in front of Lu Hantian. Obviously, Lu Hantian was also a fourth venerable expert. Forget it? Lu Hantian was a peerless genius in the past. It was only right for them to pay their respects to him. Greetings, Martial Uncle Lu. The group of geniuses had bitter faces. They could only comfort themselves in their hearts. Then, they unwillingly paid their respects to Lu Hantian. This is the benefit of being handsome. Life is as lonely as snow. Lu Hantian smiled mischievously, then shook his head. His face revealed a lonely and pained expression, which made everyone's face twitch unnaturally. Also, this Zhuowen is my brother. Speaking of which, he is also your martial uncle. Come, pay your respects to Zhuowen. Lu Hantian didn't give up. He quickly pulled Zhuowen over and grinned at the geniuses in the square. His smile was as lewd as it could be. F***CK. It was fine if they paid their respects to you, but this Zhuowen was younger than them. Although he was strong, he was still considered as their peer. How could they pay their respects to Zhuowen? Everyone froze and began to hesitate. They couldn't accept paying their respects to Zhuowen. What? You don't want to pay your respects? Are you not giving me, Lu Hantian, any face? Lu Hantian's face turned cold. An extremely terrifying pressure was emitted. Instantly, everyone in the square felt as if there was a mountain pressing down on their backs. Everyone's face was filled with fear. This Lu Hantian was too terrifying. Just the pressure he emitted was enough to make them unable to stand up. Greetings, Martial Uncle Zhua. In the square, everyone was helpless. They could only lower their bodies and pay their respects to Zhuowen. This Lu Hantian was strong and shameless. It was their bad luck to meet such a martial uncle. On the other side of the square, Lu Nanshan's eyes shone brightly. When Lu Hantian had emitted his pressure, even he had been a little unsteady. It seemed that his elder brother's cultivation hadn't regressed during the hundreds of years of the Blood Devil inheritance. His strength was definitely above his own. Lu Hantian revealed a satisfied expression. Just as he was about to bring Zhuowen and Lu Nantian into the inner hall to discuss the matters of the Marquis of Baichuan's residence, a group of 10 people suddenly entered the square. The person in the lead was dressed in luxurious purple clothes. There was a trace of killing intent on his face as he hurried into the square. Zhuowen recognized this person. It was the second prince of the house of Marquis Qin, Lu Yongsheng. Beside him was the pale-faced Lu Yuanhua. Behind the two of them was a group of generals in armor. Each of them had a terrifying aura. They were all experts who had reached the ultimate emperor realm. Lu Yongsheng and Lu Yuanhua quickly walked to Lu Nanshan's side. Lu Yongsheng glared coldly at Zhuowen and said to Lu Nantian, Lord Father, not only did these two people trespass into our house of Marquis Qin, they also injured 4 elders and third brother. Their actions are vile and audacious. These 2 people deserve to die. Lord Father, please uphold justice for us. As soon as Lu Yongsheng said this, the atmosphere in the square immediately quieted down. Everyone stared at Lu Yongsheng's group with strange gazes. It was as if they were watching a clown perform. If Lu Yongsheng knew that the beggar he was accusing was Lu Hantian, how would he feel? Lu Yongsheng also noticed the strange gazes of the people around him and frowned slightly. Although he didn't understand the meaning behind their expressions, he didn't care. In fact, he was already suppressing a belly full of anger. This Zhuowen was too presumptuous. Although he was surprised by Zhuowen's appearance, this person was too daring. Not only did he defeat him and Lu Yuanhua in the Origin Qi Pagoda, but now he even came to the house of Marquis Qin to cause trouble. If Lu Yongsheng didn't get rid of this Zhuowen today, it would be difficult to relieve the hatred in Lu Yongsheng's heart. A junior still dares to be so arrogant. Come. Since you think we deserve to die, come and chop me. Yes, chop here. Remember to chop accurately. Don't miss. Lu Hantian began to act shamelessly again. He sneered and pointed at his neck, boasting shamelessly. His arrogance was much more arrogant than Lu Yongxing's. Lu Yongsheng was stunned. He didn't expect this beggar to be so infuriating. He coldly snorted and said, "You said it. If I accidentally kill you, then don't blame me." Chapter 594. What happened in the past, Father? Why are you stopping me? At this moment, LV Yongsheng was looking at Lu Nantian with a puzzled expression. The one who had stopped him was Lu Nantian. "Kneel. Apologize." Lu Nantian's expression was solemn as he spat out these words, causing LV Yongsheng and the others to be dumbfounded. "Father, what did you just say? You want me to kneel and apologize? Why?" LV Yongsheng's eyes were wide open as he spoke with a face full of disbelief. He almost thought that he had misheard. "Bastard, why aren't you kneeling? Do you know who he is? He is your uncle, Lu Hantian. Where did you get the courage to be so impudent in front of your uncle?" Lu Nantian coldly snorted as a terrifying aura gushed out and covered LV Yongsheng's body. With a plop sound, LV Yongsheng knelt on the ground. Lu Yuanhua and the others behind him also knelt on the ground without exception. The aura of 4 venerable realm experts was too terrifying. It was not something that they could resist. Lu Hantian, however, they did not care that they were kneeling on the ground. They were all looking at the beggar standing beside Zhuowen in shock. This guy was actually Lu Hantian, the peerless genius that they had worshipped since they were young. However, they also knew that since Lu Nantian had said so, he was definitely not lying to them. Their eyes flickered as LV Yongsheng and the others could only lower their heads and say, "Just now, we were blind and offended, Uncle. We hope that you can forgive us." Lu Hantian shook his head and did not pay attention to LV Yongsheng. Instead, he said to Lu Nantian, "If the house of Marquis Qin wants to continue to grow, then you need to properly manage this huge mansion. However, Nantian, you clearly did not satisfy me." Lu Nantian looked ashamed and said, "Big brother, it was my mistake to make the house of Marquis Qin so chaotic. Now that you have returned, the house of Marquis Qin will be managed by you, big brother." Everyone was shocked when they heard this. They never thought that Lu Nantian would actually give up the authority to manage the house of Marquis Qin. That was the position of the Lord of County. His status and authority were practically supreme in Muqin County. "No need. I came back this time because of Zhuowen. Otherwise, I might never step into the house of Marquis Qin. You have been in charge of the house of Marquis Qin for so many years. Leaving it to me will only make things worse. You should keep it for yourself." Lu Hantian waved his hand dispiritedly. "Big brother, Father didn't do that on purpose. He had no other choice. I hope you won't hate him." Lu Nantian said hesitantly. "All right, let's not talk about the past. Is that old man dead?" Lu Hantian narrowed his eyes and snorted coldly. "Father passed away 10 years ago." Lu Nantian said sadly. Dead?" Lu Hantian's body trembled. His pupils shrank as he said in surprise, "It's Su Ling Tian." Lu Nantian said with resentment in his eyes. "Su Ling Tian, it's that old man again. I thought that the old man would really leave. He actually stayed in the county for almost 100 years?" Lu Hantian's voice became extremely cold. Zhuowen was confused when he heard this. From the conversation between the two, Zhuowen could tell that Su Ling Tian wasn't simple. Otherwise, even Lu Hantian would reveal a fearful expression. "Let's go to the inner hall to talk. I've returned to the house of Marquis Qin to settle some old debts besides the matter of Zhuowen," Lu Hantian said in an indifferent voice. Lu Nantian nodded. His eyes revealed a trace of expectation. He gave some instructions to the other people in the square and led Lu Hantian and Zhuowen into the magnificent inner hall. After Lu Nantian and the other 2 left, most of the geniuses in the square also dispersed. Lu Yongxing's group of 10 stood at the edge of the square. Their expressions were extremely complicated. None of them had expected that the peerless genius Lu Hantian would still be alive. Moreover, he had returned to the house of Marquis Qin. "Third brother, We can't afford to provoke this Zhuoan. You, and I should be very clear about the deeds of our eldest uncle, Lu Hantian. It's obvious that this child and our eldest uncle came out of the blood devil inheritance together. They have a close relationship. You shouldn't provoke him anymore. Otherwise, our eldest uncle might not care about family ties and ruthlessly deal with you. Lu Yongsheng sighed inwardly. He looked at Lu Yuanhua, who was still unwilling to give up. Since childhood, the people of the house of Marquis Qin worshipped Lu Hantian the most. Therefore, they were very clear about the deeds and temperament of Lu Hantian. It was precisely because they were clear about Lu Hantian's temperament that Lu Yongsheng didn't dare to provoke Zhuoan. He was very clear that if Lu Hantian went crazy, he could really do anything. I know, second brother. In the future, I won't provoke Zhuoan anymore. Lu Yuanhua clenched his fists and said with a bitter smile. Lu Yuanhua suddenly realized that he had been thoroughly defeated. Looking at the figure walking side by side with Lu Hantian and Lu Nantian, Lu Yuanhua suddenly thought of the stubborn figure in Rattan Armor City who didn't yield in the face of his powerful strength. Perhaps in the beginning, he shouldn't have provoked Zhuoan. Unfortunately, time couldn't be turned back, and medicine for regret couldn't be bought. In the spacious inner hall, rows of lanterns floated in the air, illuminating the large hall with incomparable brightness. In the middle of the inner hall sat three figures. They were Zhuoan, Lu Hantian, and Lu Nantian. As soon as Zhuoan sat down, he couldn't wait to ask, "Big brother Hantian, what exactly was the reason you were trapped in the blood demon inheritance back then? Also, who exactly is this Su Lingtian that you guys mentioned just now?" There were too many questions in Zhuo Wen's heart. Back in the 100-Year Brew restaurant, when Zhuoan had suggested that they break into the house of Marquis by Chuan, Lu Hantian had revealed a dignified expression. It was as if there was something in the house that he feared. It must be known that Lu Hantian was a supreme, heavenly venerate expert. In Zhuoan's opinion, such an expert was almost invincible in Muqin County. However, Lu Hantian had revealed a grave expression. Then, there was only one possibility. There should be an existence hidden in the 100-Year Marquis mansion that Lu Hantian feared. Lu Hantian's eyes flickered as he said, "Zhuoan, you're not an outsider." Then, I'll tell you what happened back then. After a pause, Lu Hantian began to tell the truth of what happened back then. 100 years ago, in the previous Vitality Tower battle, Lu Hantian had appeared out of nowhere and defeated countless geniuses. The geniuses of the other four super forces couldn't even withstand one move from Lu Hantian. At that time, Lu Hantian was high-spirited and his strength was monstrous. Even some geniuses in the Imperial Capital County had noticed this peerless heaven's pride of Muqin County. Muqin County was truly blessed at that time. Not only did it produce a peerless genius like Lu Hantian, but his younger brother, Lu Nantian, was also not weak. Although he was not as strong as Lu Hantian, he was comparable to the number one geniuses of the other four superforces. It could be said that the House of Marquis Qin was at its most glorious at that time. If a single sect had produced two extraordinary geniuses, then as time passed and they completely matured, the influence of the Muqin Marquis estate would surely far surpass the other four extraordinary powers. At the end of the Vitality Tower battle, Lu Hantian had undoubtedly surpassed all the other geniuses and obtained 5 inheritances on the 4th floor of the inheritance ground. At that time, Lu Hantian was very conceited and looked down on the 5 ancient inheritances. He stubbornly chose the blood demon inheritance. The scene at that time was similar to Zhuoan's choice of the blood demon inheritance. It shocked countless masters. Lu Hantian was indeed heaven-defying. He had passed through 18 trials and reached the core area of the blood demon inheritance ground. At that time, the blood demon had yet to awaken. If Lu Hantian wanted to leave, it would have been easy. However, because the blood demon inheritance was located in the blood demon's lair, and the blood demon's lair was the place where the blood demon was hibernating, Lu Hantian's strength wasn't as strong as it was now. If he entered the blood demon's lair, the chances of him dying were very high. Therefore, Lu Hantian didn't enter. Without any other choice, Lu Hantian could only casually plunder some items from the core area and leave the Blood Demon Inheritance ground. After handing over the Blood Demon Inheritance ground to Lu Nantian, Lu Hantian was still unwilling to leave like this. Therefore, Lu Hantian re-entered the Blood Demon Inheritance ground. He gritted his teeth and decided to enter the Blood Demon's lair. Carefully, Lu Hantian snuck into the Blood Demon's lair. He did indeed find a lot of good things inside. Just as he was about to take some good things, the ancestor of the Marquis House of Baichuan, Su Lingtian, quietly followed Lu Hantian in. At that time, the one that followed Lu Hantian in was a puppet refined by Su Lingtian. Its strength was even weaker than Lu Hantian's, but its aura was hidden very well. Even Lu Hantian didn't notice it. It was this puppet that attacked the sleeping Blood Demon when Lu Hantian was about to leave the Blood Demon's lair. With the Blood Demon's personality, it was natural for it to become furious after being disturbed. As for Lu Hantian, he became the sacrificial lamb. Fortunately, Lu Hantian's escaping skills were top-notch. Although the Blood Demon was powerful, Lu Hantian managed to escape with his life. Since then, Lu Hantian had been trapped in the Blood Demon's inheritance ground for 100 years. Su Lingtian is the ancestor of the Marquis House of Baichuan. He's also a fourth Venerable Realm expert. Zhuowen asked with furrowed brows. He didn't expect that the Marquis House of Baichuan would have an ancestor. This Marquis House of Baichuan was indeed not simple. After such a long period of existence, our 5 superpowers have naturally nurtured many fourth Venerable Realm experts. However, these powerful ancestors would usually choose to leave Muqing County and travel to other places, or they would go outside the Qingxian Empire to seek a wider sky. This is also the reason why there are so few fourth Venerable Realm experts in Muqing County. Lu Nantian spread out his hands. Oh, so Su Lingtian hasn't left? Has he always been in the Marquis House of Baichuan? Zhuowen nodded and continued to ask. No, Su Lingtian left Muqing County 1,000 years ago. However, he suddenly returned 100 years ago. Perhaps he felt threatened by Big Brother. So Su Lingtian plotted against Big Brother and caused him to fall in the Blood Demon's inheritance ground. His goal was to prevent the House of Marquis Qin from becoming stronger. Lu Nantian was very clear about the problem. He immediately saw through Su Lingtian's goal. Chapter 595. Grudges. Back then, the previous owner of the House of Marquis Qin, my father, L.V. Howren, was furious when he found out about this. He barged into Su Lingtian's cave alone to demand an explanation. Unfortunately, Su Lingtian was already a peak Golden Venerate 100 years ago. He was only half a step away from the Heavenly Venerate realm. My father was the same as me. He had just entered the 4 Venerates realm and was only from the Xuanzuan realm. He was 2 realms below the Golden Venerate realm. He was no match for Su Lingtian. L.V. Nanshan's eyes were filled with hatred. It was obvious that L.V. Howren had suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of Su Lingtian. The price of his defeat was naturally his life. Sigh. After that battle, my father was seriously injured. When he returned, he passed the position of county master to me. He then went into seclusion to recuperate, but his injuries were too serious. 10 years ago, his injuries flared up and he passed away. L.V. Nanshan's resolute face was filled with grief and indignation at the mention of L.V. Howren's death. His fists were clenched tightly. Boom! L.V. Hantian's body shook. A terrifying aura surged out. The tables and chairs around them exploded into dust under this aura. At this moment, L.V. Hantian's playful smile had disappeared. His face was filled with coldness. Well done. This Su Lingtian is getting more and more arrogant. When the ancestors of the House of Marquis Qin were still around, this old dog didn't even dare to fart. Now that the ancestors of the House of Marquis Qin are no longer around, does this old dog really intend to seize the position of county master of the House of Marquis Qin? L.V. Hantian's expression was extremely cold. The aura in his body became even more terrifying. Zhuowen and L.V. Nantian retreated in horror. Zhuowen's retreat was pardonable, but L.V. Nantian was also from the Xuanzuan realm. Even he was forced to retreat. This LV Han Tian was indeed terrifying. Big brother, could it be that you've also reached the Golden Exalt realm? Sensing Lu Hantian's terrifying aura, Lu Nanshan's eyes flickered, and he revealed a look of pleasant surprise. Although he knew that Lu Hantian's cultivation was definitely higher than his, he only believed that the former was only a level higher than him, the sovereign realm. However, Lu Hantian's aura alone was enough to force him to retreat. This was not something a sovereign could do. At the very least, Lu Hantian was a Golden Exalt. The Four Venerables realm, as the name implied, naturally had four minor realms. They were the Xuanzun realm, the Supreme realm, the Golden Venerables realm, and the Heavenly Venerables realm. Each realm was more terrifying than the last. Moreover, after reaching the fourth level, the armor soul in his body would also be greatly improved. It would be materialized, and the armor soul would turn from a soul body into a physical body. Its strength would increase exponentially. Therefore, after reaching the fourth venerable realm, the armor soul, which had become useless, would become extremely important and powerful. It could greatly increase the strength of the martial artist. However, Lu Hantian shook his head and said, "It's not the Golden Venerables realm, but the peak of the Heavenly Venerables realm. Although the Blood Demon's land of inheritance is extremely dangerous, there are also many benefits. The energy of heaven and earth inside is much richer. One day of cultivation inside is equivalent to a month's cultivation. It's almost 30 times faster than the outside world." Hearing this, Zhuowen and Lu Nantian both nodded. No wonder Lu Hantian's cultivation was so fast. It turned out that the Blood Demon's land of inheritance had such benefits. Hee. This time, I've survived a great disaster. Then, I'll kill that old dog Su Lingtian. The Baichuan Marquis residence doesn't need to exist anymore. This time, the Baichuan Marquis residence will be my stepping stone. Lu Hantian slowly withdrew his aura and said indifferently, "Zhuowen, go ahead and break into the Baichuan Marquis residence. I'll do my best to pin down the experts inside for you. If anyone dares to touch you, I'll directly destroy them." Lu Hantian patted Zhuowen's shoulder and said heroically, "Many thanks, big brother Hantian." Zhuowen quickly cupped his hands, his face full of gratitude. "Nantian, go to the Baichuan Marquis residence first and send that Su Chong away. Let Zhuowen do his best to break through the Baichuan Marquis residence. Leave the matter of covering the rear to me." Lu Hantian said to Lu Nantian, "Okay, I'll go to the Baichuan Marquis residence now." Lu Nanshan's face lit up with excitement. When he learned that Lu Hantian had reached the peak of the Empyrean realm, he knew that he would be able to take revenge for LV Howren. As Lu Nantian left, Lu Hantian waved his sleeve, and a wisp of energy passed between Zhuowen's eyebrows. He continued to say, "Zhuowen, the information I sent you is the approximate location of the Baichuan Marquis residence. Since Su Tianyang is the high heir of the Baichuan Marquis residence, he should be living in Arid Peace Palace. That is the palace of the high heirs. Go there and look for him." After obtaining this information, Zhuowen's face lit up with joy. He wasn't familiar with the Baichuan Marquis residence and had been worried about the map problem. But now, Lu Hantian had helped him solve ahead of time. "Let's go. This old man will accompany you to the Baichuan Marquis residence. This time, we must turn the Baichuan Marquis residence upside down. Only then will that old dog, Su Lingtian, appear. Otherwise, even I won't be able to find that old dog." As Lu Hantian spoke, he flicked his sleeves and brought Zhuowen with him, vanishing from the inner hall within the Baichuan Marquis residence. Within a vast palace, Su Chong was sitting cross-legged on a praying mat, silently cultivating. The aura around him surged like a raging river, unstoppable. Dong dong. A clear knocking sound slowly sounded out. Su Chong frowned. He opened his eyes and coldly said, "What is it?" He saw a maid in plain clothes push open the door and enter. She respectfully bowed and said, "Lord Marquis, Lord Lu Nantian requests an audience." "Lu Nantian? Why did he suddenly request an audience with me?" Su Chong was puzzled as he asked in puzzlement. After the maid left, Su Chong tidied up his clothes and slowly pushed open the door. Although the Baichuan Marquis residence had Su Lingtian's support, he actually did not take Lu Nantian seriously. However, Lu Nantian was the county lord after all. Moreover, Lu Nantian's strength was much higher than his, so Su Chong was still extremely fearful. Although he was full of doubts, he still could not forget some etiquette. Ancestor is about to come out of closed-door cultivation. When he completely comes out, I'm afraid the county lord will change. Su Chong could not help but reveal a trace of a sinister smile when he recalled Su Lingtian's promise to him. He was very clear about Su Lingtian's strength. Although Su Lingtian's strength was unstoppable 100 years ago, the position of county lord was not something that could be taken at will. This position was personally conferred by the Qing emperor. Su Lingtian was indeed powerful, but he still did not dare to seize it by force. However, if Su Lingtian could break through to the heavenly venerate realm, he would be valued by the Qing emperor. At that time, as long as Su Lingtian asked, the Qing emperor would probably agree to the matter of changing the county lord. A few days ago, Ancestor said that he was about to break through to the heavenly venerate realm. It seems that the day of our Baichuan Marquis residence, becoming the county lord of Muqin, is approaching. Thinking of this, the corners of Su Chang's mouth curved into a complacent smile. He was no longer so fearful of Lu Nantian because, in his opinion, this Lu Nantian was destined to submit to him. In the hall, Lu Nantian smiled and sat quietly in his seat, leisurely sipping tea as if this place was his home. When Su Chong entered the hall and saw L.V. Nantian, who was leisurely and contented, there was a slight displeasure between his brows. He really didn't like L.V. Nantian's leisurely and contented expression, as if everything was in his hands. However, when he recalled Su Lingtian's words, he did not pay too much attention to it. Instead, he smiled and said, "May I know why Brother Lu has suddenly come to my residence?" Brother Su, it's been a long time since I've had a good chat with you. I've nothing to do today, so I want to have a good chat with you. I've even brought a lot of wine and delicacies. The corners of Lu Nantian's mouth curved into a smile. With a wave of his sleeve, a rectangular table appeared in the center of the hall. It was filled with a rich and delicious wine. The wine was sweet and mellow like nectar, and its fragrance permeated the air. Su Chong revealed a strange expression. He wasn't sure what Lu Nantian's intentions were, but he didn't care too much. He sat down across from Lu Nantian and said, "Since Brother Lu is so kind, I won't refuse. Today, I will drink with Brother Lu to my heart's content." As Su Chong and Lu Nantian were drinking with their own thoughts, Lu Hantian and Zhuowen were standing in the skies above the 100 Rivers Marquis mansion, looking down at the massive city below. "Zhuowen, Arid Peace Palace is there. I fear that your family members are imprisoned in the depths of the palace. Go ahead, your big brother will wait for you here. Make as much noise as you can. This time we must draw out that old dog, Su Lingtian." As Lu Hantian spoke to hear, his lips curved up in a cold smile. "Also, give me your bone spear," Lu Hantian suddenly said to Zhuowen. Zhuowen was startled. Although he was puzzled, he still took out the dragon-scale tyrant bone spear and handed it to Lu Hantian. Bang! A mysterious concept emerged from Lu Hantian's hand. The originally ordinary-looking bone spear actually erupted with a terrifying aura. It began to expand like a balloon, spreading out for nearly 100 miles. Moreover, this aura continued to increase until it spread out for nearly 1,000 miles. This terrifying aura covered the entire area for 1,000 miles. Countless white clouds tumbled about, as if countless dragons were wreaking havoc. Luckily, they were 10,000 miles high up in the skies, so not many people noticed this strange phenomenon. Whoosh! This aura only lasted for a moment before it was completely restrained. The bone spear was still a bone spear, but there was an additional sharpness to it. "Zhuowen, pour apart my spear intent into this bone spear. With this spear, no one below the 9 Emperor will be able to stop you. Within the 100 River Marquis mansion, besides Su Chong and Su Lingtian, no one will be able to injure you." Lu Hantian smiled as he tossed the bone spear to Zhuowen. Receiving the bone spear, Zhuowen discovered that a mysterious concept flowed along the surface of the bone spear like the veins of a person's body. With just a thought, this powerful spear intent hidden deep within the bone spear would surge out like a tide. Invincible beneath the nine-wheel Emperor realm, Zhuowen revealed an excited expression. He had not expected Lu Hantian to pour spear intent into the dragon scale tyrant bone spear. He knew that Lu Hantian's spear intent had reached the peak of perfection. With his spear intent, he truly did not need to fear the experts within the 100 River Marquis Mansion. Many thanks, Big Brother Hantian. Zhuowen laughed heartily as he cupped his hands. Go! Lu Hantian waved his hand. Whoosh! Chapter 596. Arid Peace Palace outside the county capital. A beam of light cut through the air. In front of the giant city gates, countless saber energies crisscrossed. Surrounded by this terrifying saber energy, a figure was faintly discernible. This person was dressed in coarse clothes, and his exposed skin was wheat-colored. His muscles were bulging, and he was tall. However, the saber on his back was even larger than his body, and looked extremely exaggerated. It was actually the one-track minded youth with the saber. This Muqing County capital isn't small, but it's much worse than the capital of the Imperial City. I wonder if that boy who comprehended spear intent is in this county capital? The youth with the saber muttered to himself within the saber energy. Then he stepped into the air and flew into the county capital. What was strange was that the guards at the city gates didn't detect this youth at all. Whoosh! Arid Peace Palace was located deep in the northwest of 100 Rivers Marquis Mansion. After Zhuowen landed on the ground, his aura was completely restrained as he slipped into the surrounding environment like a shadow. With Zhuowen's strength, as long as he didn't deliberately expose himself, then no one would notice him. Of course, 100 Rivers Marquis Mansion was heavily guarded. Even Zhuowen had to spend a great deal of energy to avoid the probing of many powerhouses and arrive at Arid Peace Palace deep in the northwest. After avoiding a group of patrolling soldiers, Zhuowen lifted his foot and was about to enter Arid Peace Palace when Xiaohei's cautious voice sounded out in his mind. Be careful. There's an array formation outside Arid Peace Palace. If you casually step in, then you will be discovered by Su Tianliang within Arid Peace Palace. Hearing this, Zhuowen was startled. He didn't think that there would be an array formation outside Arid Peace Palace. He quickly asked, how come I don't feel any fluctuations of an array formation? Xiaohei proudly smiled. Who do you think this Dragon Lord is? How can you compare to it? No formation can escape this Dragon Lord's fiery golden eyes. Zhuowen helplessly shrugged. He didn't bother with the self-satisfied Xiaohei. Instead, he continued to ask, then do you know how to break through it? Of course. Watch this Dragon Lord. Xiaohei coldly smiled. She turned into a wisp of black light and vanished from Arid Peace Palace. Around an hour later, Xiaohei returned to Zhuowen's spiritual sea. She said, this array formation is quite fierce. It took me a great deal of time. You can go in now. Zhuowen looked at Xiaohei strangely. When he was trying to break the array, he did not see any signs of the array being broken. When he thought about how he did not see any signs of the array being broken, Zhuowen began to suspect that Xiaohei was deliberately showing off in front of him to show off her great abilities. Hey, kid, what's with that look? Hurry up and go in, Xiaohei said coldly. Zhuowen curled his lips and nodded. Then, he stepped forwards and flew into Arid Peace Palace like a gust of wind. 2 black-armored soldiers stood on either side of Arid Peace Palace's gates. With a flash of cold light, the 2 soldiers fell to the ground without even making a sound. Then, a phantom flashed past them and entered the palace. Inside the entrance was a deep corridor. Lamps were lit on both sides, making the dark corridor seem as bright as day. Zhuowen walked carefully. Before he found the Zhua family, he didn't dare to alert the enemy. After all, if he did, Su Tianliang might do something to the Zhua family. With Xiaohei's help, Zhuowen restrained his aura to the extreme. He was like a shadow beneath the light. After passing through the corridor, he arrived at a wide hall. There were stone pillars erected all around, supporting the entire hall. There wasn't a single person in the hall, and deathly silence that seemed like complete silence spread throughout the surroundings, causing it to be cold and terrifying. "There's no one here." Looking around at the silent surroundings, Zhuowen frowned. This hall should be the deepest part of Arid Peace Palace. If he wasn't wrong, this should be where Su Tianliang usually stayed. So why was it so strange today that there wasn't a single person here? Creak! The sound of machinery turning echoed throughout the hall. Zhuowen immediately noticed that in the left corner of the hall, there was a row of common-looking bookshelves. At this time, the bookshelves began to slowly open from the center. Zhuowen could even faintly hear the voices of people inside. Whoosh! Zhuowen wasn't slow. He immediately hid behind a stone pillar, hiding in the shadows. With Xiao Hei's help, they seemed to blend into the darkness. The bookshelves completely opened, and two figures walked out. These two people weren't too old, and they were dressed as servants. As they walked out, they were chatting with each other. However, the way these two people walked was a bit strange. With one in front and one behind, it was as if they were carrying something together. It seemed as if they were struggling. The Crown Prince's murderous aura is too heavy. How many people has he tortured today? It should be the 10th. I really have no idea why the Crown Prince would torture these people. Moreover, he cruelly tortured them to death. Even I can't stand such a scene. Why do you care so much? Maybe these people offended the Crown Prince in some way. Don't say such things again in the future. Otherwise, if the Crown Prince hears you, you'll be in for a treat. Drip, drip. As the two people walked past Zhuowen's stone pillar, Zhuowen could clearly hear the sound of water dripping onto the ground. Then, he discovered that the path the two people were walking on was filled with red blood, and this blood was flowing from the object they were carrying. When the two of them arrived at Zhuowen's side, Zhuowen discovered that the two of them were carrying a corpse. The corpse belonged to a young man who was about the same age as Zhuowen. At this moment, blood was flowing out of his 7 orifices. His eyes were wide open and filled with resentment. When Zhuowen saw the appearance of this corpse, his pupils shrank into needles and his heart skipped a beat. This corpse was actually a member of the Zhuo family. Moreover, he also knew this person. He was a junior of the same generation as the Zhuo family. His name was Zhuo Jun. When Zhuowen became the pavilion master of the Veiled Dragon Pavilion, this Zhuo Jun had also sent gifts to Zhuowen. Their relationship could be considered good. But now, he had turned into an ice-cold corpse. Who are you? How did you enter Arid Peace Palace? The two people suddenly discovered Zhuowen behind the stone pillar and couldn't help but shout out loud. They had never seen this person in Arid Peace Palace before. Moreover, this person's appearance was extremely unfamiliar. If they didn't discover him behind the stone pillar, then they feared he wasn't simple at all. Put him down, then bring me into the chamber. Zhuowen's complexion was ice-cold. From the conversation just now, it seemed that Su Tianliang had gone mad and tortured the Zhuo family clansmen. He had even tortured 10 of them to death. At this time, Zhuowen's heart was burning with anxiety. He had to hurry to the chamber and rescue his clansmen. You really aren't someone from the 100 Rivers Marquis Mansion. You actually dare to intrude into the mansion? Are you tired of living? Today, I will capture you and bring you to see the crown heir. The tall and thin servant standing in front had his hands on his hips, a cold sneer on his face. He looked at Zhuowen as if he were looking at a dead man. In his opinion, Zhuowen was simply seeking death by intruding into the 100 Rivers Marquis Mansion. Pucci! A cold light flashed and blood gushed out. The tall and thin servant's voice came to an abrupt end. He clutched his neck and looked at the mysterious youth in front of him with horror. Then, he slowly slumped to the ground. The other short and fat servant looked at the tall and thin servant who had lost his breath. His whole body trembled and his teeth chattered. With a plop, he knelt down and said, "Sir, please spare my life. Don't kill me." The tall and thin servant was stronger than him. Now that he was killed in one move, the short and fat servant naturally knew that he was no match for the mysterious youth in front of him. He immediately knelt down and begged for mercy. "Bring me to the chamber, or die." Zhuowen's gaze was extremely cold. As he looked at Zhuo Jun, who had died with his eyes wide open, the killing intent in Zhuo Wen's heart towards Su Tianliang surged even more violently. Okay, I will bring you to the chamber. The short and fat servant bitterly smiled and could only agree. He knew that if he didn't agree, the young man in front of him would directly kill him with a spear strike. Slowly walking to Zhuo Jun's corpse, Zhuo Wen's eyes were filled with sorrow. He closed Zhuo Jun's angry eyes and calmly said, "Don't worry. Today, Su Tianliang will definitely die." Hearing this, the short and fat servant's eyes revealed a trace of shock. This mysterious youth was actually here to assassinate the crown prince. He looked less than 20 years old. How could he be a match for the crown prince? He was probably here to die. Thinking of this, the short and fat servant shook his head. He felt that this mysterious youth was overestimating himself. He actually dared to challenge the crown prince. "Lead the way. Don't play any tricks. My spear will always run faster than you. If you don't want to die, you'd better bring me to Su Tianliang." Zhuo Wen's gaze was cold as he pressed the spear tip against the short and fat servant's back. "I don't dare. I will lead the way for you." Feeling the coldness from his back, the short and fat servant's body turned cold. He quickly led Zhuo into the bookshelf that had already been opened. Behind the bookshelf was a deep tunnel. There were oil lamps on both sides, so the line of sight was quite clear. Following the short and fat servant, Zhuo slowly entered the tunnel, but he didn't let down his guard. In the depths of the tunnel, there was a huge space. The walls of this space were made of rock, and there were huge lamps hanging in the air. They were like small suns, illuminating this dark space. There were all kinds of torture instruments in this space. At this time, these instruments were more or less stained with blood. The smell of blood filled the entire space. In the center of this space, there were dozens of wooden crosses. There were people tied to these crosses. If Zhuo was here, he would definitely recognize these people. They were all members of the Zhuo family. Grandpa Zhuo Xiangding, Big Uncle Zhuo Baitian, Second Uncle Zhuo Dingtian, and Zhuo also had quite a number of geniuses of the same generation. Most of them were riddled with scars and wounds all over their bodies. Cherry red blood dripped onto the ground. Under the crosses, there were many people dressed like servants. They held whips in their hands and waved them at the people on the crosses, leaving new scars on their bodies. At this moment, Su Tianliang was sitting in front of the crowd, looking at the painful expressions of the people on the crosses with a mocking gaze. Beside Su Tianliang stood a middle-aged man in blue with a terrifying aura and a cold expression. "Hee, don't blame me, Su Tianliang. If you want to blame someone, blame that son of a bitch from the Zhuo family called Zhuo. Not only did he kill my second brother, but he also caused me to lose my ancient inheritance. He deserved to die in the inheritance of the blood devil." Su Tianliang said slowly, "Good kill. Your Baichuan Marquis mansion is no good. I really hate that Zhuo didn't kill you back then." Exalted Spirit. Chapter 597. The bronze branding pillar. Su Tianliang immediately saw a robust old man with a head full of silver hair standing at the head of the cross. He sneered. "You must be Zhuo Xiangding, right? Zhuo's grandfather. Hee, your temper is really similar to that bastard Zhuo's. But this is exactly what I hate the most." Su Tianliang slowly stood up and walked over to Zhuo Xiangding. He looked at the old man who was covered in wounds, but still refused to submit. A trace of disgust appeared in Su Tianliang's eyes. This expression was very similar to Zhuo's. "Like puppy, like old dog. It looks like this lord didn't treat you well enough. Men, bring me the bronze branding pillar. I want to properly entertain this old man." Su Tianliang snickered. Many of the people present paled when they heard this. The bronze branding pillar was an extremely terrifying torture tool. It was said that the pillar was connected to the magma deep underground, and the prisoner would be tied to it. The magma was terrifyingly hot, enough to burn the bronze branding pillar red. The temperature had reached almost 1,000 degrees. Even an ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator would suffer unbearable pain if they were trapped in the pillar. "Su Tianyang, you bastard, come at me if you have the ability." "What kind of ability is that to my father?" Zhuo Xiangding and Zhuo Baitian were furious as they shouted in unison. Zhuo Xiangding was already heavily injured from the earlier torture. If he was tied to the bronze branding pillar, he would probably not be able to hold on for long. You two don't need to be in such a hurry. It will be your turn soon. There's no need to rush to die. Su Tianliang sneered. He ignored the frenzied Zhuo family members behind him and took the bronze rod from servant. He formed a seal with both hands, and the small rod rapidly expanded until it was several thousand feet long. Su Tianliang slammed it deep into the ground. Instantly, a terrifying heat wave swept over, causing the temperature of the entire space to soar like a hot stove. Many people inside were sweating profusely, and the bronze pillar that was inserted into the ground instantly turned red. Seeing the red pillar, the expressions of many people changed. Everyone could imagine that if they were to be bound by the pillar, they would undoubtedly die. Zhuo Xiangding's expression did not change. He ignored the bronze pillar and stared straight at Su Tianliang. In fact, when he heard the news of Zhuowen's death, his heart had already died. Zhuowen was the most outstanding genius of the Ryuka bloodline. He was even more heaven-defying than Zhuo Xiaotian. After Zhuo Xiaotian went missing 10 years ago, Zhuo Xiangding had placed all his hopes of reviving the Ryuka bloodline on Zhuo Zhuowen. Unfortunately, Zhuowen had also fallen. How could Zhuo Xiangding not be sad? How could he not be angry? Now, he had taken life and death too lightly. Bring this old thing here. I will personally tie him to the bronze pillar. Standing beside the bronze pillar, Su Tianliang looked at Zhuo Xiangding with a mocking expression. The two servants did not dare to be negligent. They quickly escorted Zhuo Xiangding to the front of the bronze pillar. Old man, do you have any last words? You can say them now. Maybe if I am in a good mood, I will help you achieve it. Su Tianliang sneered. My last words are simple. That is, you, Su Tianliang, and the house of Marquis of Baichuan will be destroyed. You, who killed my Zhuo family, will not have a good death. Zhuo Xiangding straightened his back and said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, You're really stubborn, but I won't bother with a person who's about to die. Su Tianliang snorted coldly. With a stroke of his right hand, a powerful force surged out. Zhuo Xiangding directly retreated and leaned against the bronze pillar behind him. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Zhuo Xiangding's eyes widened, and his face was full of pain. However, he did not make a sound and just stared at Su Tianliang. The best part is yet to come. You don't have to stare at me, Su Tianliang sneered. Unknowingly, a copper chain appeared in his palm. With a wave of his right hand, the copper chain wrapped around Zhuo Xiangding like a snake. He wanted to tie Zhuo Xiangding tightly to the bronze pillar. Clang! The crisp sound of metal clashing rang out as a cold glint rapidly flashed across the air. The copper chain that was about to wrap around Zhuo Xiangding was directly shattered into pieces. Soon after, a bone spear quietly stood in front of the bronze pillar. Who is it? Su Tianliang's face was gloomy and he kept retreating. However, when he saw the bone spear in front of him, his pupils shrank. He was too familiar with this weapon. It was his bone spear that pierced his shoulder blade and forced him to give up the ancient inheritance. Tyrannical dragon scale bone spear? Zhuowen? Su Tianliang could not help but exclaim. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the space focused their attention on the bone spear. The people of Marquis Baichuan's mansion were gloomy, but the people of the Zhuo family were pleasantly surprised. Zhuowen did not die. He really did not die. At this moment, the people of the Zhuo family only had this thought in their minds. Zhuowen. Zhuo Xiangding collapsed on the ground. Looking at the tyrannical dragon scale bone spear, he was already in tears. This old man, who did not change his expression when facing the bronze pillar, actually revealed his true feelings because of a bone spear. Whoosh! A silhouette flashed past, lightning crackling under his feet. A black-haired young man stood on a bone spear with one leg. Two pairs of lightning wings spread out behind his back. Countless lightning bolts filled the air, and the entire space seemed to have turned into a world of lightning. Zhuowen! Zhuowen! As soon as the black-haired young man appeared, The people of the Joie family, who were tied to the crosses, revealed hopeful expressions. Everyone smiled. The Joie family had long regarded Juon as the hope of Ryuka's revival. As long as Juon did not die, then both the Joie family and Ryuka would definitely rise again. However, if Juon died, then all hope would be lost. Therefore, the moment Juon appeared, the people of the Joie family smiled happily. This was because the hero in their hearts had finally arrived at the final moment. Boom! 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 Juon stomped his foot with a cold expression. Looking at Joie Xiangding, who was paralyzed on the ground, and the people of the Joie family who were tied to the crosses, Juon's eyes were filled with monstrous anger. Endless lightning surged out of Juon's lightning wings like the sharpest blade. In an instant, the restraints on the Joie family members collapsed. Then, all the people of the Joie family gathered around Juon. Juon slowly came to Joie Xiangding's side and gently helped the silver-haired old man up. His eyes were filled with guilt. "Grandfather, I'm sorry. I didn't protect you and your family. I deserve to die," Juon said in a low voice. His heart was filled with self-blame. If he had not chosen to stay in the Blood Devil's inheritance land and left directly, perhaps this would not have happened. Juon had always felt guilty about this. "It's okay. It's good that you're back." Joie Xiangding looked emotional and cried tears of joy. "Juon, I didn't expect a bastard like you to be able to come out of the Vitality Tower. It seems that your luck is pretty good. However, your good luck has come to an end. You dare to break in my Baichuan Marquis mansion. No matter how strong you are, you will die here." Although Su Tianliang was shocked, he still spoke coldly to Juon and looked at Juon with a wary expression. What made Su Tianliang stunned was that Juon did not even look at him from beginning to end. Instead, he took out precious elixirs and handed them to the Joie family members. These elixirs were obtained by Juon from the Blood Devil's inheritance land. They were extremely abundant. Grade 4 elixirs. "Juon, how do you have so many Grade 4 elixirs on you?" "Heavens, it's actually Grade 5 elixirs. This rich medicinal aura can only be from Grade 5 elixirs." The Joie family members were in an uproar from time to time. They all looked at the elixirs that Juon took out in astonishment. These elixirs were basically Grade 4 elixirs, and the Grade 5 elixirs were handed by Juon to Joie Xiangding. There were so many Grade 4 elixirs, and there were even Grade 5 elixirs among them. Not only were the Joie family members shocked, but even the surrounding people of the Baichuan Marquis Mansion were shocked. Although the Baichuan Marquis Mansion was large, there were not many Grade 4 elixirs in reserve, especially Grade 5 elixirs. Even their Baichuan Marquis Mansion was relatively rare. However, Juon directly took them out and looked extremely casual, as if he did not take them to heart. "Juon, this Grade 5 elixir is too precious. You should keep it for yourself." However, Joie Xiangding was somewhat hesitant. A Tier 5 spirit herb was extremely precious, and he was not willing to use it. "Grandfather, you can rest assured. I don't lack elixirs. Since I came out of the Blood Devil inheritance, it means that I have obtained the Blood Devil inheritance. With the name of the Blood Devil inheritance, do you think I lack these elixirs?" Juon shook his head. As soon as Juon's words came out, the scene suddenly became silent. Everyone stared blankly at the young man holding the bone spear. The Blood Devil inheritance was really obtained by Juon? Su Tianliang was also stunned. Originally, in his opinion, Juon had come out alive because of luck, and not because he had obtained the inheritance of the Blood Devil. But now, Juon's words had stunned him. The Blood Devil inheritance was the most terrifying inheritance in the land of inheritance. Juon actually obtained it. This was something that even Lu Hantian could not do 100 years ago. However, a sneer quickly appeared on Su Tianliang's face. He did not believe that Juon was able to obtain the Blood Demon's inheritance. In his opinion, Juon had said this to intimidate them. "Juon, your tricks are really childish. Do you think that the lie of obtaining the Blood Devil inheritance can deter us? Not to mention that you didn't obtain the Blood Devil inheritance. Even if you did, so what? Today, you still won't be able to walk out of here alive." Su Tianliang sneered. However, Zhuowen still ignored Su Tianliang. Instead, he silently healed the Zhui family members, completely ignoring Su Tianliang. You bastard! How dare you ignore me? Don't think that you can jump on top of me just because you defeated me by luck in the land of inheritance. Now that I have advanced to the mid-stage of the Ultimate Emperor stage, I'm afraid that you are no longer my opponent. However, Su Tianliang's words were ignored by Zhuowen again. Suddenly, Su Tianliang's chest became extremely tight. He roared angrily and rushed toward Zhuowen. Today, he would definitely teach this arrogant Zhuowen a lesson. How dare he ignore him, Su Tianliang? Who did Zhuowen think he was? Chapter 598. Trapped in the secret chamber instantly. The scene became incomparably silent. One could even hear a pin drop. Looking at Su Tianliang, who was lying on the ground a dozen meters away, both the Zhua clan members and the servants of the Marquis of Baichuan's mansion sucked in a cold breath. Su Tianliang was a four-wheel middle-stage Ultimate Emperor Realm expert, but he was sent flying while vomiting blood. Wasn't this too exaggerated? How strong was Zhuowen? Eldest Crown Prince, are you okay? The blue-clothed middle-aged man, who had been standing silently on the side, turned into a blue shadow and helped Su Tianliang, who had fallen to the ground in a sorry state, up. A trace of solemnity appeared on his cold face. When Zhuowen attacked just now, the aura that had suddenly erupted had made him tremble with fear. Su Yu, kill that bastard Zhuowen for me. Su Tianliang stood up, his hair disheveled. His eyes were bloodshot as he stared at the blue-clothed middle-aged man and roared. He was too unwilling to accept that he had been defeated by the same person twice. Moreover, the second time, he had been defeated in a single blow. Su Tianliang was not stupid. He knew that Zhuowen's strength was definitely far above his. Otherwise, he would not have been defeated so thoroughly. Eldest Crown Prince, this boy is not simple. Leave this place quickly and call the experts of the house to surround and kill him. We will definitely be able to kill him. Otherwise, we may not be enough, the blue-clothed middle-aged man said solemnly. What? Su Yu, you are a four-wheel middle-stage Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. Are you still not a match for this boy? Su Tianliang said in shock. He did not believe that Zhuowen was really so strong. Su Yu was a four-wheel middle-stage Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. He probably did not fear LVE Tao at all, but now he was so afraid of Zhuowen. Naturally, Su Tianliang found it unbelievable. This boy's aura is not weaker than a four-wheel middle-stage Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. Moreover, he probably has a lot of trump cards. Even I may not be able to defeat him. Therefore, it is extremely dangerous for you to stay here, the blue-clothed middle-aged man, Su Yu said in a low voice. Hearing this, Su Tianliang's face darkened. He did not expect Su Yu to have such a high opinion of Zhuowen. Coupled with the crushing defeat just now, Su Tianliang knew that Zhuowen was not the same as before. Yes, you guys delay Zhuowen. I will immediately summon the experts of the house of the Marquis of Baichuan. Su Tianliang's eyes flashing, Su Tianliang's whispered. After that, Su Tianliang's figure flashed and swept directly toward the corridor behind. Obviously, he intended to leave this place to call for reinforcements. Su Tianliang, do you think you can? Come back here. Zhuo Wen's eyes narrowed as he looked at the fleeing figure of Su Tianliang. His right hand suddenly slapped out, and immediately golden light flickered and overflowed in all directions. A huge golden palm condensed in the air and slapped towards the back of the fleeing Su Tianliang. Zhuowen, your opponent is me, not the first crown prince. Su Yu snorted coldly. The aura of a four-wheel middle-stage Ultimate Emperor Realm expert surged out. His black hair danced in the wind and his eyes flashed. He also struck out with a huge black palm to meet Zhuowen's golden palm. Rumble. The palms collided. Gold and black were like two extremes, dividing the entire space into two colors, gold and black. Can you block it? With a cold snort, Zhuowen's killing intense sword. He took a step forward and instantly arrived above the two palms. All 360 acupoints in his body were opened. Zhuowen's entire body shone with golden light, like a solemn ancient Buddha. Break it. The palm shuttled through the void and pressed against the huge golden palm. Suddenly, the golden light blazed like a small sun, so bright that everyone could not open their eyes. Crack! In 2 breaths' time, the golden light completely suppressed the black light. Suyu's black palm shattered like glass. Suyu retreated continuously, a trace of blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. His face was full of shock. Su Tianliang, who was fleeing toward the corridor, also saw the strange situation behind him. He turned back and saw Suyu vomiting blood. In the exchange of blows, Suyu was actually at a disadvantage. This discovery made Su Tianliang stagger. Zhuowen's strength was too terrifying. Fortunately, Suyu told him to escape quickly. Otherwise, he would have really died at Zhuowen's hands. No matter how strong you are, wait until I gather all the experts in the residence. Zhuowen, you will die without a doubt. Muttering to himself, Su Tianliang sped up. The threat that Zhuowen gave him was too strong. He had to get out as soon as possible. Get out of the way, or die. Looking at Su Tianliang, who had disappeared in the corridor, Zhuowen frowned. He knew that after Su Tianliang escaped, he would inevitably gather all the experts in the residence. Although he was not afraid because of Lu Hantian's spear intent, he could not guarantee the safety of the Zhuo family, so he was a little anxious. Suyu's face was full of fear, but he did not give in. Instead, he said to the trembling servants of the Marquis mansion, "Stop this boy. Anyone who disobeys will be killed." As soon as Suyu's words came out, the surrounding servants' faces all changed. Under Suyu's indifferent gaze, they all gathered in front of Suyu and blocked Zhuowen's way. "Zhuowen, when the eldest prince escapes, it will be the time of death for you traitors. If you surrender now, I, Suyu, will plead with the eldest prince for you. Maybe the eldest prince will spare your lives." Suyu stared at Zhuowen with fear. He even used the Marquis mansion to deter Zhuowen and others. Zhuowen sneered. Did Suyu really think he was a fool? Surrender without a fight? Perhaps only a fool would accept such a condition. You talk too much nonsense. You'd better save your words in the netherworld. With a sneer, Zhuowen stamped his feet and 2 pairs of thunder wings spread out. His whole body turned into a strange and unpredictable thunder and instantly arrived above Suyu and others. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 4 kinds of earth fires suddenly sprang out from Zhuowen's body. With a change of his hand gesture, the 4 kinds of earth fires suddenly merged and turned into 4 alternating colors of terrifying flames. As soon as the 4-colored flames came out, a terrifying temperature gushed out. In an instant, the entire space above turned into a monstrous sea of fire, and then the terrifying sea of fire suddenly fell down like the sky was collapsing. "Everyone, let's work together to block it." Suyu's face changed slightly, and he quickly shouted. At the same time, he raised his hands, and a terrifying power gushed out. The other servants also raised their hands and released their best moves. In an instant, the colorful energy spread out like a universe of light and turned into a semicircular 5-colored round shield in the air. This was the defensive energy shield that Suyu and others had created together. Boom! The 4-colored sea of fire descended and bombarded the 5-colored round shield. The earth-shattering tremors spread throughout the entire space. However, the 5-color round shield was quite impressive. It barely managed to block the corrosion of the 4-colored flames. Suyu and others breathed a sigh of relief. Among them, Suyu shook his head and mocked, "Zhuowen, I'll give you one more chance. Surrender now. When the masters of the Marquis mansion arrive, I can guarantee your life in front of the eldest prince. How about it? Do you really think that I can't do anything to you?" The corner of Zhuowen's mouth curled up into a cold smile. With a stomp of his foot, a chilling white flame slowly emerged from Zhuowen's body. For a moment, the surrounding temperature actually dropped by a lot. This flame was one of the earth fires that Zhuowen had obtained from the Blood Devil's land of inheritance. It was called the 9 Underworld Cold Flame. Another earth fire? Suyu's pupil shrank and could not help but exclaim. Just now, Zhuowen had released 4 earth fires, which was already extremely terrifying. But now, this guy actually released one earth fire. Let's try the power of the 5 colored flames. As soon as the 9 serenities cold flame appeared, Zhuowen's hand gesture suddenly changed. Under the effect of the fire melting technique, the cold 9 serenities cold flame merged into the 4 colored flames in the sky. Suddenly, the 4 colored sea of fire rolled like waves. Between the 4 colors, there was a trace of cold white. The 4 colored flames finally transformed into 5 colored flames. Bang! As soon as the 5 colored flames formed, a terrifying power surged forth. The 5 colored round shield above Su Yu and the others was like fragile glass, collapsing inch by inch until it turned to dust. No, we don't want to die. Please let us go. What a terrifying flame. The instant the 5 colored round shield shattered, the 5 colored refining flame instantly swallowed Su Yu and the others below. Immediately, miserable screams rang out one after another. In just a moment, everyone except Su Yu had been turned into ashes by the 5 colored refining flame. Su Yu was the strongest, but at this time he was also riddled with wounds. His entire body twitched, and he was half dead, not far from death. Grandfather, follow me. I'll lead you out of Arid Peace Palace first. We can't stay here any longer. Ignoring the half-dead Su Yu, Zhuowen spoke to Zhua, Xiangding, and the other Zhua family members behind him. We'll listen to you. You can make the decision. At this time, Zhua Xiangding's face was full of gratification. The formidable strength that Zhuowen had displayed just now had left him satisfied. The stronger Zhuowen was, the more their Zhua family would prosper. If Zhuowen could reach the level of the former patriarch of the Ryuka family, then it was possible for them to revive the Ryuka family. Zhuowen nodded. He led Zhua, Xiangding, and the others deeper into the corridor. When they reached the end, they all stopped. This was because they discovered that at some unknown time, this underground chamber had been sealed up. It must have been done by that Su Tianyang. After that fellow escaped, he planned on trapping us here. Zhua Xiangding said, his complexion ugly. It's fine. Just watch me forcefully break open this space. Zhuowen shook his head. That Su Tianyang once said that this chamber was created by a meteorite that fell from the sky. Even a 5-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert might not be able to break open it. I'm afraid that only a 6-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert might be able to do so. Zhua Xiangding looked at Zhuowen with some worry. Although Zhuowen had killed Su Yu, his strength was at most comparable to a peak 5-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. The gap between a 6-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert and a 5-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert was enormous, so Zhua Xiangding was worried. Let's give it a try. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up. Suddenly, a 5-colored refining flame gushed out. Then, the ice flame, sacred rune on the back of his hand, erupted with a dazzling light. As for the blue crystal formed by the extreme cold, it slowly approached the 5-colored refining flame. Chapter 599. All rivers run into the sea outside Arid Peace Palace. A distressed figure passed by. He turned his head and glared at the massive Arid Peace Palace behind him. He coldly said, Zhuowen, you damn bastard, just you wait. The chamber beneath my Arid Peace Palace is formed by a meteor that fell from the heavens. No matter how heaven-defying you are, you will never be able to break it. Once I gather masters, I will show you who's boss. This person was Su Tianyang, who had just escaped from the chamber. At this time, his face was filled with fear. Zhuowen was far too terrifying. Even Su Yu had been forced back by him. If he were to face Zhuowen, he would undoubtedly die. Thinking of this, Su Tianyang took out a jade token from his chest. The surface of the jade token shimmered with a brilliant light, sparkling and translucent. This jade token was a summoning jade token. Once it was crushed, it would emit special fluctuations of information. These fluctuations of information could be transmitted tens of thousands of miles away and could be used to summon the powerful elders of 100 River Marquee Mansion. After all, 100 River Marquee Mansion was one of the 5 super influences of the county capital. Those that could become elders were all at least at the extreme 5-wheel Emperor realm. and Hundred River Marquee Mansion had elders with such strength in the double digits. Bang! Su Tianliang fiercely crushed the jade token. Immediately, a strange fluctuation of energy spread out in all directions, spreading to every corner of Hundred River Marquee Mansion. As for the powerful martial artists in every corner of Hundred River Marquee Mansion, they all felt this strange fluctuation. Some martial artists even frowned. They knew that this was the aura of a summoning jade token. It's actually a summoning jade token. From the direction of the aura, it seems to be coming from Arid Peace Palace. Could the Crown Prince be in danger? The Crown Prince used the summoning jade token. Just who is so bold and strong to force the Crown Prince to use the summoning jade token? We have to immediately go to Arid Peace Palace. Those that dare to offend my Hundred River Marquee Mansion must be killed. Go to Arid Peace Palace. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After the martial artists in every corner of the Hundred Rivers Marquee Mansion sensed the aura of the summoning jade token, they all stepped forwards and shot towards Arid Peace Palace. They wanted to see just who dared to cause trouble in the Hundred Rivers Marquee Mansion. Over a dozen figures stepped through the void, all of them heading towards Arid Peace Palace. These figures all had vast auras, but judging from their auras, they were all at the 5-wheel Emperor Realm or above. There were even a few 6-wheel Emperor Realm powerhouses. In just an instant, most of the elders of the Baichuan Marquee Mansion were summoned by the summoning jade token. A vast aura surged over the Baichuan Marquee Mansion like a vast ocean. In the guest hall, Su Chang, who had been feigning civility and drinking with Lu Nantian, felt his face twitch. He had also sensed the aura of the summoning jade token. This summoning jade token could only be sensed by those in the marquee of Baichuan's residents who had reached the ultimate Emperor Realm. Arid Peace Palace sent it out? Could something have happened to Tianliang? Su Chang frowned. He knew that if it weren't for a life or death crisis, Su Tianliang wouldn't use the summoning jade token. After all, the manufacturing process of a summoning jade token wasn't simple at all. A small jade token required an extremely high price to make, so it wasn't easy to use. No, I have to go to Arid Peace Palace and take a look. Thinking about it, Su Chang still didn't feel at ease with Su Tianliang. He only had 2 sons in total. His second son, Su Liang, had already been killed by Zhuoan in the Origin Energy Pagoda. Now that he only had Su Tianliang as his son, he naturally couldn't feel at ease. Thinking of this, Su Chang cupped his hands together towards Lu Nantian and said, "Brother Lu, I have some matters I need to attend to, so please excuse me for a moment." As Su Chang spoke, he stood up, wanting to leave the hall. But just as he was about to step out, a powerful strength surged out, blocking the exit. Brother Lu, what is the meaning of this?" Feeling the strength in front of him, Su Chang's complexion darkened. He turned his head and coldly stared at the smiling Lu Nantian. He began to feel anxious in his heart. He didn't want anything to happen to Su Tianliang. Brother Su, it's rare for me to come to your Hundred River Marquee Mansion. You haven't properly received me yet? Isn't it too rude to leave like this?" Lu Nantian slowly stood up, still smiling. Hearing this, Su Chang's complexion changed. How could he not know that Lu Nantian was deliberately blocking him? He coldly humphed and said, "Brother Lu, this joke isn't good. I think you know the ins and outs of my Hundred River Marquee Mansion. You shouldn't be so stupid as to become enemies with us, right?" Brother Su's words are wrong. It's not that our house of Marquee Qin wants to become enemies with your Hundred River Marquee Mansion, but that your Hundred River Marquee Mansion wants a mile after taking an inch. I'm afraid you want to become the ruler of this county region, right? Lu Nantian calmly said. Su Chang's complexion changed. He frowned and said, "Lu Nantian, what do you mean by this?" Just now, Arid Peace Palace's Tianliang used the summoning jade token. Was this something your house of Marquee Qin did? At this time, Su Chang's tone had become impolite. He knew that Arid Peace Palace's crisis was likely related to the house of Marquee Qin. Since Lu Nantian had repeatedly blocked him, he might as well tear apart all pretense of cordiality and no longer be polite. So what if it is? So what if it isn't? Lunantion chuckled, ambiguously speaking. Lunantion, have you forgotten the one hiding in Hundred River Marquee Mansion? Do you dare to move against our Hundred River Marquee Mansion? Su Chang's eyes became increasingly cold as he directly called out Lunantion's name. Are you talking about Su Lingtian? That old dog. Our House of Marquis Qin will naturally find him to settle accounts with. But first, we have to deal with your Hundred River Marquee Mansion. As Su Lingtian was mentioned, Lunantion's smile faded away. Instead, it was replaced with a cold and gloomy expression. Bang! The aura of the Xuanzuan realm suddenly surged outwards like a volcanic eruption. The air boiled and space twisted. The atmosphere of the entire hall became extremely heavy, as if it were terrifying. Today, I, Lunantion, am here to settle accounts with your Hundred River Marquee Mansion. Lunantion walked towards Su Chang step by step, his aura rising. The previous patriarch, Lu Hantian, had been killed by Su Lingtian. Even many geniuses of the House of Marquis Qin had been killed by Su Lingtian. 100 years ago, his elder brother, Lu Hantian, had been schemed against by Su Lingtian and was trapped in the Blood Devil Inheritance Land. The hatred of killing one's father and brother was simply irreconcilable. However, Lunantion had been enduring for nearly 100 years because he knew that the House of Marquis Qin was indeed much stronger than the Hundred River Marquee Mansion. However, Su Lingtian was too strong. As long as Su Lingtian was still alive, he wouldn't dare to touch the Hundred River Marquee Mansion. However, Lu Hantian's return had given him hope, especially since Lu Hantian had reached the heavenly venerable realm. He knew that the time for revenge had come. Therefore, Lunantion didn't intend to endure any longer. Lunantion, what are you trying to do? Don't you know about the existence of our ancestors? If our ancestors know that you dare to touch the Hundred River Marquee Mansion, your House of Marquis Qin will be finished. Su Chang's expression was ugly. Lunantion's abnormal behavior made him somewhat uncertain. In the past, with Su Lingtian's existence, Lunantion didn't dare to touch the Hundred River Marquee Mansion. Why was he acting so abnormally today? Finished? I'll kill you first and let Su Lingtian taste the feeling of losing a family member. Lunantion sneered. With a stomp of his foot, a monstrous aura swept towards Su Chang like a ferocious beast. Even Su Chang's heart trembled at the sight of that aura. Damn it, Lunantion, you forced me to do this. Seeing Lunantion rushing towards him, Su Chang trembled with fear. Lunantion was much stronger than him. He screamed and fled from the hall. Su Chang, you won't be able to escape. The corners of Lunantion's mouth curled into a sneer. He took a step forward and shot towards Su Chang. Murderous intent burst forth from his eyes. He caught up to Su Chang in an instant and sent a palm strike towards the latter's back. Su Chang was shocked. He turned around and met Lunantion's palm. With a groan, Su Chang was sent flying 100 meters away. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Su Chang, you'll die today. Lunantion followed up. Su Chang's strength was much weaker than his, so he didn't put him in his eyes at all. Lunantion blasted out another palm strike. Countless air currents in the void flowed chaotically. A terrifying palm of several thousand feet condensed and pressed down on Su Chang. Lunantion, you forced me to do this. Do you think that my ancestor wouldn't be on guard against your House of Marquis Qin? It won't be that easy to kill me. Su Chang's eyes flickered. A ray of light had unknowingly flashed in his finger. Then, the ray of light expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. It instantly became 1,000 meters tall. When the ray of light faded, it turned out to be a river several thousand meters long. It was like a huge dragon that surrounded Su Chang's body, forming a perfect defensive circle. Boom, boom, boom. The 1,000-meter-tall palm slapped down, but it couldn't even move the sparkling river around Su Chang. Armor Soul, all rivers reach the sea. You've also reached the fourth venerable realm? Lunantion couldn't help but exclaim when he saw the terrifying river around Su Chang. He knew that the armor soul of the house of Marquis Baichuan was the all rivers reach the sea. However, if a cultivator hadn't reached the fourth venerable realm, the armor soul wouldn't be able to materialize and its power wouldn't be unleashed. It would be useless. However, the huge river around Su Chang's body was indeed the armor soul ocean containing all rivers. Furthermore, it was a materialized armor soul ocean containing all rivers. Only the four venerables could materialize armor souls. I haven't reached the fourth venerable realm and am still at the peak of the ultimate ninth wheel emperor realm. However, my ancestor's methods are extraordinary. He used a secret technique to materialize my armor soul in advance. Although its power can't compare to the real fourth venerable realm, it's more than enough to stop you. Su Chang stepped on the huge river in the void and stared at Lu Nantian. His eyes were filled with coldness. The materialization of the armor soul was his secret trump card. Today it was exposed because of Lu Nantian. This made him hate Su Chang to the extreme. Su Lingtian again? So what if you materialize the armor soul in advance? Your strength is only at the ultimate ninth wheel emperor realm. Do you think you're a match for me? Lu Nantian snorted coldly. His body overflowed with light like a small sun. Then 3,000-meter-tall gates appeared in the void behind him. Each of them was indomitable and had a surging aura. On the surface of the gates, there were complicated runes that looked like tadpoles. Armor Soul, Sealed Gates. Chapter 600. To settle old scores. The powerful aura was like a surging dragon, wreaking havoc in the entire sky. In an instant, strange phenomena appeared in the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder rolled. What's going on? Why is there such a terrifying phenomenon in the sky? Instantly, the entire province was attracted by Su Chang and LV Nanshan's auras. When they saw the giant dragon-like river and the giant mountain-like door facing each other in the sky, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Soul, armor materialization? Is this a battle between two fourth venerable realm experts? That's the sealed door of the house of Marquis Qin. I'm afraid that this person is the owner of the house of Marquis Qin, Lu Nantian. Who is the other person? Isn't that river the 100 rivers of the 100 rivers Marquis, house's inheritance, armor soul? That person is the lord of Baichuan Marquis residence, Su Chang. When did Su Chang advance to the fourth venerable realm and materialize his armor soul? Swish, swish. Numerous gazes converge on the two people in the sky as they instantly recognize the identities of Lu Nantian and Su Chang. Naturally, there were even more people who were shocked by Su Chang. Everyone knew that Su Chang was only at the pinnacle of the ultimate nine wheels emperor realm. However, no one had expected him to be able to materialize the armor soul. This was something that could only be achieved by four supremacy realm cultivators. Whoosh, whoosh. Instantly, countless figures rushed over from all over the county capital and stopped 100 miles away from the Marquis of Baichuan's residence. They stared at the two people who were facing each other in the sky. Actually, everyone was puzzled. How did Lu Nantian and Su Chang meet? At the same time, the master of the meteorite, Xianyuan Li of the Sword Raining School, and Xinya of the Marquis, Yongxing Mansion also sensed the terrifying aura in the sky above the prefecture capital. Master, what's wrong? In the Jade Lady Star Court, Luo Xing looked at the master of the meteorite with a puzzled expression and asked, Sai, the house of Marquis Baichuan and the house of Marquis Qin are in conflict. I'm afraid that Su Chang and Lu Nantian are going to have a big battle. The master of the meteorite sighed. Su Chang and Lu Nantian? Lu Nantian was a fourth Paragon realm expert. Would Su Chang be a match for him? Also, is there any deep hatred between the house of Marquis Baichuan and the house of Marquis Qin? Luo Xing asked doubtfully. There's a secret here that you don't know about. Let's go to Marquis Baichuan's residence to take a look first. The master of the meteorite shook her head and waved her sleeve. An invisible energy wrapped around Luo Xing and left the Jade Lady Star Court. At the same time, Xianyuan Li of the ruling sword school and Xinya of the Marquis Yongxing's residence took Zhu Qi and Qin Batian and left their respective areas of influence. Their faces were grave. As the leaders of the super forces, Xianyuan Li and Qin Nye naturally knew about the secret between the House of Marquis Baichuan and the House of Marquis Qin. Although the House of Marquis Qin seemed to be far more powerful than the House of Marquis Baichuan on the surface, the House of Marquis Qin had that person. Even the House of Marquis Qin would not dare to provoke the House of Marquis Baichuan. If they really fight, I'm afraid the power structure of the prefecture capital will change greatly. Xianyuan Li and Qin Nye flew up into the sky. Their brows were furrowed with worry. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 streamers arrived in an instant and quietly floated above the House of Marquis Baichuan. The streamers converged to reveal 6 figures. Naturally, they were the Master of the Meteorite and Luo Xing of the Jade Lady Star Court, Xianyuan Li and Zhu Qi of the Ruling Sword School, and Qin Nye and Qin Batian of the Marquis Yongxing's residence. Su Chang has also achieved soul armor realization. When did this guy break through? Looking at Su Chang, who was surrounded by a huge river, Qin Nye's face was a little gloomy. Su Chang's strength had always been on par with his. Usually, neither of them would submit to the other. But now, seeing Su Chang's soul armor realization, Qin Nye's face was gloomy. No, Su Chang's aura is still that of an ultimate 9-wheel emperor. This soul armor realization must have been made by that person for Su Chang. After all, that person's strength is extremely terrifying. Xianyuan Li shook his head. Brother Xianyuan is right. Su Chang hasn't reached the boundary of 4 revered. This soul armor realization should have been made by that person. Such methods are truly formidable. No wonder even the House of Marquis Qin didn't dare to be disrespectful to that person. The Master of the Meteorite said. As for the words of these 3 people, they left Luo Xing, Qin Batian, and Zhu Qi scratching their heads in confusion. The 3 of them simply didn't know of the grudges between the House of Marquis Baichuan and the House of Marquis Qin, so they were completely baffled. Should we try to persuade Brother Su and Brother Lu? After all, the War of the 9 Counties is about to begin. If both sides suffer losses because of this, I fear it will be extremely disadvantageous for the war. Xianyuan Li hesitantly said, I fear it will be difficult. You also know of the blood feud between our 2 families. They didn't make a move before because the time wasn't right. But since they made a move today, I fear our persuasion will be useless. The Master of the Meteorite shook her head. In the open space outside Arid Peace Palace, figures began to gather. Over a dozen figures instantly arrived in front of Su Tianliang. Hi, Air. Did something happen? Why did you suddenly use the summoning jade token? Over a dozen people landed. The one in the lead had white hair and a white beard. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's, and as they flashed, they gave off a strange and soul-stirring feeling. This person's name was Su Zhong, and he was the leader of the Inner Court Elders. His strength was extremely formidable, and it was said that he had reached the terrifying peak of the 6-wheel Emperor realm. Behind him stood 2 old men with cold and indifferent expressions. Although these 2 old men's auras were inferior to Su Zhong's, they were far stronger than an ordinary 5-wheel Emperor realm martial artist. They should be early 6-wheel Emperor realm powerhouses. These 2 old men were called Su Tsong and Xu Yong. They were Su Zhong's left and right hands. These 3 6-wheel Emperor realm powerhouses were in charge of all the inner court elders of the House of Marquis Baichuan. As for the other dozen elders, their strength was around the 5-wheel Emperor realm. They all followed behind Su Zhong with an obedient expression. Su Zhong, you've finally come. That bastard Zhua Wen didn't die, but he actually managed to break into my Arid Peace Palace's chamber. Those captured Zhua family clansmen were all saved by that bastard. Su Tianliang gloomily said, What? Zhua didn't die? He escaped from the blood demon inheritance? Su Zhong and the others couldn't help but be shocked. After the struggle for the Origin Energy Pagoda, there was no one in the county capital who didn't know the name Zhuowen. After all, Zhuowen's performance in the Origin Energy Pagoda had been far too sensational. In particular, when he finally chose the blood demon inheritance, everyone firmly remembered this name. I'm afraid this boy obtained a great deal of benefits from the blood demon inheritance. His cultivation has reached the middle stage of the five-wheel emperor realm, but the strength he displayed was terrifying. I fear he is comparable to a peak five-wheel emperor. Even Su Yu was defeated by this boy. As Su Tianliang recalled the terrifying strength Zhuowen had displayed in the chamber, his complexion turned ugly. There was even a trace of fear mixed in. Even Su Yu was defeated? Su Zhong's eyebrows arched up. Su Yu was also an inner court elder, but he was a true late-stage five-wheel emperor. If even Su Yu was defeated by Zhuowen, then it seemed that Zhuowen's strength was no weaker than a peak five-wheel emperor. High Air, don't worry. We have many inner court elders, and the weakest amongst them is at the early stage of the five-wheel emperor realm. No matter how heaven-defying that Zhuowen is, I fear he will perish here. But where's that boy now? Su Zhong's face was filled with confidence. Zhuowen's performance was indeed worthy of being called a genius, but he still hadn't grown up yet, so he didn't place him in Su Zhong's eyes. But now, with so many elders gathered here, it was impossible for Zhuowen to escape. Su Tianliang nodded. He pointed at Arid Peace Palace and bitterly said, "I've already trapped that bastard in my chamber. As long as we enter Arid Peace Palace, we can capture him. Elder Su Zhong, remember to capture him alive. I will torture him to death. High Air, don't worry. We will definitely accomplish this." Su Zhong's lips curved up. Just as he was about to lead the many elders behind him into Arid Peace Palace, an aura suddenly erupted in the skies, causing the world to tremble. Immediately, Su Tianliang, Su Zhong, and the others looked up. They saw Su Chong and Lu Nantian standing in the skies, facing off against each other. Both of them had summoned their respective armor souls. Is that Lu Nantian? What is this Lu Nantian doing? Could it be that he can't help but want to attack? Su Tianyang frowned. He faintly knew some of the secrets of the past. Moreover, he also knew that within their 100 River Marquee mansion, there existed an ancestor with monstrous strength. When LV Nantian and Su Chong appeared in the void, two figures with terrifying auras flew out from the depths of Marquee Baichuan Mansion. One of them was in a white robe, while the other was in a black robe. The two of them instantly arrived in the skies above Arid Peace Palace. They silently stared at Lu Nantian and Su Chong in the skies, a dignified expression on their faces. "Greetings, highest elders." After Su Tianyang, Su Zhong, and the others saw these two old men, they all respectfully bowed. These two old men were highest elders. Their strength and status far surpassed that of inner court elders. Even Su Tianliang didn't dare to slight them in the slightest. The two black and white old men only nodded. Then they no longer paid attention to Su Tianliang and the others below. Instead, they stared at the skies. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, countless experts from the province gathered around the marquee of Baichuan's residence. Similarly, they stared unblinkingly at Su Chong and LV Nantian in the sky. This was a battle between four Supreme Being level experts, who would easily let it go. I never thought that I would encounter a battle between two revered sovereigns in Muqin County capital city. However, their auras aren't strong enough. They should be around the Xuanzuan realm. Let's just watch. A young man carrying a large saber that was over 3 meters long on his back stopped 50 kilometers away from Marquee Baichuan's estate, and he silently looked at Su Chong and Lu Nantian, who were in confrontation. This person was precisely the young man with the large saber that was a battle maniac who insisted on fighting Zhuowen. Rumble, rumble, rumble. While everyone's gazes were gathered in the sky, an earth-shaking explosion suddenly sounded at this moment without any warning. Immediately, countless numbers of gazes gathered in that direction. They saw that in the skies above Arid Peace Palace in the northwest of 100 River Marquee Mansion, a 10,000-foot long 5-colored lotus flower slowly bloomed in the skies. The petals unfurled one by one, and a terrifying aura gushed out. Chapter 601. Red Sun Treasure, Bol Shua, Shua Shua. Stunned gazes turned towards the youth that shot up from beneath Arid Peace Palace. Then, the surrounding atmosphere fell silent. That youth is Zhuowen? Zhuowen actually came out from the blood demon inheritance? The master of the meteorite, Qin Nye, and Xin Yuanli all had stunned looks on their faces as they recognized this youth's identity. On the side, Fallen Star's eyes revealed a trace of astonishment, but this was soon replaced by joy. She didn't know why, but after seeing that Zhuowen was fine, she was actually overjoyed. Zhuowen's complexion was gloomy. He couldn't forget the scene of him being brutally beaten up by Zhuowen in the inheritance land. Now that he saw Zhuowen again, his complexion naturally wouldn't be good. It's Zhuowen. Didn't that Zhuowen die in the blood demon inheritance? How could he appear here now? The countless county capital masters gathered around the 100 River Marquis mansion also recognized Zhuowen. They were well aware of just how terrifying the blood demon inheritance was. For this child to come out alive, it was clear that he wasn't simple at all. After breaking through Arid Peace Palace, Zhuowen also didn't think that there would be so many people around him. He couldn't help but reveal a stunned expression. When he was in the chamber, Zhuowen had tried to fuse together the 5-colored lotus. The terrifying power of the fusion had far surpassed his expectations. The entire Arid Peace Palace had been destroyed. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Within the ruins of Arid Peace Palace, the members of the Zhuo family also appeared. They stood behind Zhuowen, vigilantly looking at the surrounding masters of the 100 River Marquis mansion. Zhuowen, your methods aren't weak at all. You were actually able to destroy my Arid Peace Palace. Looking at the ruins of Arid Peace Palace, blue veins popped out on Su Tianliang's forehead. This was his personal palace, and yet it had been destroyed by that bastard Zhuowen. This was simply a slap to his face. Elder Su Zhong, you have to catch this boy alive. I want to slowly pull out his tendons, peel off his bones, and torture him to death. Su Tianliang stared at Zhuowen and said word by word. His words were extremely vicious. Don't worry, Crown Prince. Today, he won't be able to escape. Once we capture him alive, you can do whatever you want with him. Su Zhong chuckled coldly as he waved his right hand and said to the 10+ old men behind him, all of you, capture this kid. As for the others, kill them all. Whoosh, whoosh. Instantly, more than 10 old men with terrifying auras dashed out and surrounded Zhuowen and the others. Their eyes were filled with hostility. They're all ultimate 5-wheel emperor realm martial artists. Zhuowen's pupils shrank as he looked at the dozen or so elders with surging auras. This Su Tianliang was indeed ruthless. He actually gathered so many experts. Moreover, Zhuowen discovered that the auras of Su Zhong and the other two standing beside Su Tianliang were even more vast. Their strength had likely reached the ultimate 6-wheel emperor realm. This discovery caused Zhuowen's expression to darken. Zhuowen, what should we do? Zhuo Xiangding arrived at Zhuowen's side, a worried expression on his face. Although he wasn't strong, his eyesight was quite unique. He could naturally feel that these people weren't easy to deal with. He was worried that they would become a burden to Zhuowen. Grandfather, you can rest assured that I will deal with these people. As for you all, you should stay here for a while. As Zhuowen spoke, he flipped his right hand and a golden light shot out from the spirit ring on his finger. It turned into a golden bowl that covered Zhuo, Xiangding, and the others. This golden bowl was a top-grade Earth-rank spirit treasure called the Red Sun Treasure Bowl. It was one of the spirit treasures that Zhuowen had obtained from the inheritance of the Blood Demon. As Zhuowen's physical strength was comparable to that of an Earth-rank spirit treasure, ordinary Earth-rank spirit treasures were useless to Zhuowen. Unless it was a Mount-type spirit treasure like the Bronze Paper Kite, offensive and defensive spirit treasures were of little value to him. After the Red Sun Treasure Bowl protected Zhuo, Xiangding, and the others, Zhuowen was slightly relieved. Then, he slowly twitched his cold-bone spear and stared at the dozen or so elders around him. His gaze was indifferent, without the slightest fear. Zhuowen seems to be surrounded by the inner sect elders of the House of Marquis of Baichuan. This boy trespassed into the House of Marquis of Baichuan. The House of Marquis of Baichuan won't let him off easily. This boy is doomed. The weakest inner sect elder of the House of Baichuan is at the initial stage of the ultimate 5-wheel emperor realm. With so many people joining forces, Zhuan is indeed in a bad situation. 100 miles away from the house of Baichuan, many experts from the prefecture capital also noticed that Zhuan was surrounded by the inner sect elders. They all shook their heads and sighed. With so many ultimate five-wheel Emperor Realm experts joining forces, this boy would not be able to escape even if he had wings. Moreover, the head of the inner sect elders, Su Zhong, was watching from the side. No matter how heaven-defying Zhuan was, it was unlikely that he would be a match for him. Therefore, not many people thought that Zhuan would be able to escape. Luo Xing also noticed Zhuan's current situation. She frowned slightly and said softly to the master of the meteorite, "Master, that Zhuan." However, the master of the meteorite interrupted her. "We can't casually step into these muddy waters. I've already helped Zhuan protect his family and friends from being killed. Speaking of which, we've already repaid the favor we owe Zhuan. Moreover, the house of Baichuan is not simple. Don't meddle in other people's business." Hearing this, Luo Xing's beautiful eyes flickered slightly, and a trace of sadness appeared on her pretty face. When facing the joint forces of the inner court elders of the Marquis estate of Baichuan, even she had no confidence in escaping, let alone Zhuan. Although Zhuan had appeared outside the Vitality Tower and might have obtained the Blood Demon's inheritance, so what if he had obtained the Blood Demon's inheritance? How much of the Blood Demon's inheritance could Zhuan digest in such a short time? His strength was at most around the ultimate five-wheel Emperor realm. Besides Xianyuan Li, Zhu Qi revealed a cold smile. He thought to himself, this Zhuan really knows how to cause trouble. He actually dared to provoke the house of Baichuan. He's basically walking right into a trap. It looks like I don't have to do anything. This boy is going to die. It's that little brat that grasped spear intent. That fellow is really bold. He actually dared to break into a house of Baichuan. He's just a mere five-wheel Emperor Realm cultivator. I wonder how he'll escape? The youth with the large saber cried out in surprise. He immediately recognized Zhuan from within the house of Baichuan, and a look of interest appeared on his face. He was well aware that any martial artist that could grasp a concept wasn't simple at all. However, although the youth with the large saber thought highly of Zhuan, he still thought that Zhuan's chances of escaping were extremely low. This was because he discovered that in the open space of Arid Peace Palace, besides the dozen some five-wheel Emperor Realm elders, there were also 3 other six-wheel Emperor Realm powerhouses. These 3 people were naturally Su Zhong and the other 2. In the youth's opinion, if these 3 weren't here, then Zhuan might have been able to escape. But now, the chances of that happening were infinitely close to 0. High up in the air, Su Chong and Lu Nantian didn't directly attack. Rather, they stood facing each other from afar. Su Chong also noticed the strange situation in Arid Peace Palace. He narrowed his eyes and said, "It's actually that little bastard Zhuan? It seems that this little bastard broke in an Arid Peace Palace with your help, right?" Lu Nantian didn't reply. He frowned, but he wasn't too worried about Zhuan. After all, with his big brother Lu Hantian here, it was unlikely that anything would happen to Zhuan. Now that he's been surrounded by the inner court elders, it's impossible for him to escape. This stupid little bastard, he actually dared to break into my house after escaping from the Blood Demon inheritance. He's simply looking to die, Su Chong said once more. Lu Nantian shook his head. He sneered, looking to die? I don't think so. It looks like you have a lot of confidence in this little bastard. Then I'd like to see just how this little bastard will escape the encirclement of the inner court elders. Seeing Lu Nantian act like this, Su Chang's eyelids jumped up. His words didn't seem like he was willing to admit defeat. His eyes followed Lu Nantian and fell onto Zhuan. Zhuan, I'll give you one last chance. Cripple your own cultivation and kneel on the ground and kowtow 3 times. Then, we can consider leaving you with your cheap life. We won't kill you so easily, Su Zhong said loftily as he crossed his arms. Looking at you, it seems you've already decided to eat me? Do you really think you can capture me by sending a bunch of chickens and dogs over? Zhuan shook his head. The dozen some inner court elders that surrounded Su Chong all had ugly complexions. This Zhuoan was so arrogant that he actually dared to call them chickens and dogs. This was far too hateful. Humph. Whether or not you're chickens and dogs isn't up to you to decide. Once we capture you, you won't even have the qualifications to kneel and beg for mercy. You better think carefully. Su Zhong frowned slightly. From his point of view, Zhuan was merely an ultimate five-wheel emperor. What did he have to compete with them? The final outcome was already set in stone. Why was this brat still so stubborn? You're not a dog. Why do you have so much nonsense to say? Zhuoan shook his head and patted the green coffin on his back with his right hand. With a creak, the green coffin was opened by 1/10. A terrifying pressure instantly descended. The dozen or so inner core elders that were closest to Zhuoan felt the most terrifying pressure. Their bodies trembled, and their strength was suppressed by about half. Their faces were filled with shock. Clang! At the same time, Zhuoan moved. Two pairs of lightning wings unfolded, and his entire body turned into a strange lightning bolt. He flashed past the surroundings, and his speed soared to the extreme. In an instant, Zhuoan arrived in front of the closest elder. With a shake of his right hand, the bone spear pierced through the void and pierced the elder's forehead between his eyebrows. Seeing the rapidly approaching bone spear, the elder's face was filled with fear. He hurriedly raised his hand to block. Unfortunately, under the pressure of the blood demon, his strength had decreased too much. He hurriedly formed a defense, but it was broken through by Zhuoan like tofu. Splat! Blood spurted out. The elder's eyes were wide open. An inch-wide, bloody hole appeared between his eyebrows, and he was no longer breathing. In an instant, an ultimate five-wheel emperor had been killed. Su Zhong and the others couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Whoosh! Zhuoan's figure didn't stop. Lightning flashed as he rushed toward the next inner court elder. Under the pressure of the blood demon, these ultimate five-wheel emperor elders were suppressed too severely. At this moment, they were like weak scholars in front of Zhuoan. Splat! Blood splattered. Another two elders died under Zhuoan's bone spear. Their eyes were wide open, and they died with grievances. After three elders died, Su Zhong finally reacted. His eyes turned blood red. These inner court elders were the top fighting force of the Marquis of Baichuan's residence. Nurturing one of them required a huge price. Now, three of them had been killed in the blink of an eye. How could Su Zhong not be angry? Stop it for this old man. Chapter 602. Grand Elder Su Zhong, Su Tsang, and Xu Yong were all ultimate six-chakra emperors, and Su Zhong was at the peak of the ultimate six-chakra emperor realm. Although they were shocked by the terrifying pressure, it didn't affect them much. Ultimate six-chakra emperors can't be compared to five-chakra emperors. 1/10 of the pressure didn't affect him much. However, the pressure from the green coffin isn't just this little. Raising his eyebrows slightly, Zhuoan patted the green coffin again. The coffin lid opened by a fifth, and a pressure several times more terrifying than before enveloped an area of several hundred meters, with Zhuo as the center. Terrifying cracks actually began to appear on the ground, and countless rocks floated in the air. Boom, boom, boom. An even more terrifying pressure descended, and Su Zhong and the other two's expressions changed slightly. They felt their bodies sink, and their movements became sluggish as if they were tortoises. What a terrifying pressure. It can even increase. How did this little bastard do it? Su Zhong's expression changed slightly. A terrifying aura as vast as the sea surged out, and countless cyclones covered his body, completely blocking the terrifying pressure around him. Spurt! Another 3 streams of blood spurted out. While Su Zhong and the other two were doing their best to resist the pressure, Zhuoan turned into a bloodthirsty Azura again. Lightning flashed, and another 3 heads flew. 3 inner sect elders had fallen. Only 5 breaths had passed since Zhuoan attacked, but nearly half of the inner sect elders had died. Only 7 inner sect elders remained, and they trembled under the pressure. Their eyes were filled with fear. Wasn't this young man a little too terrifying? In such a short period of time, the inner sect elders, who were all ultimate 5-wheel emperors, had been instantly killed by him. The impact of this on them was extremely shocking and shocking. Zhuowen, you little bastard, you deserve to die. Su Zhong's eyes turned red when he saw that nearly half of the inner sect elders had died before his eyes. His face was filled with rage. These inner sect elders had been his followers and confidants for many years, and they were talents that the Marquis of Baichuan's residence had painstakingly nurtured. How could he not be furious when they died before him? Boom! Su Zhong did not hold back at all as he unleashed the aura of a peak ultimate emperor. His powerful aura actually managed to faintly resist the corrosion of the surrounding pressure. He charged towards Zhuowen like a bolt of lightning. With a flip of his hand, a terrifying palm print slammed down. Oomph! This is far from enough. Zhuowen snorted coldly. He stomped his feet, and the two pairs of lightning wings on his back unfolded. His speed soared to the extreme. He was like a slippery loach as he dodged Su Zhong's attack. Then, he continued to rush toward the other elders who were being suppressed. Damn it! Damn it! Seeing Zhuowen dodge his attack, Su Zhong was extremely irritable. With his cultivation, it was actually not difficult for him to catch up to Zhuowen, but the pressure that Zhuowen released was like a towering mountain that constantly pressed down on him, causing him to be unable to fully unleash his strength. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sound of breaking air rang out once more. This represented the fall of another inner court elder. Zhuowen was like a cold-blooded and merciless viper. He didn't show any mercy at all, and every strike he made was fatal. He was well aware that if he wasn't ruthless, then these people from 100 River Marquis Mansion would be even more ruthless than him. Since they had already formed a death grudge, Zhuowen naturally wouldn't be lenient. He had to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Pung, pung, pung. The sound of heavy objects falling to the ground continuously sounded out, and then, without exception, the remaining 7 inner court elders all lost their lives under Zhuowen's 3-foot-long blade. The gurgling sound of water faintly sounded out in the silent open space. 100 River Marquis Mansion only had a total of 16 inner court elders. Now, 13 of them had died beneath Zhuowen's hands. This was truly a disastrous loss. Dead? 13 inner sanctum elders were all killed? Isn't this Zhuowen a bit too terrifying? All around 100 River Marquis Mansion, all of the powerhouses that were silently watching Arid Peace Palace suddenly burst into an uproar. They never thought that such an incredible scene would occur in a battle where there should have been a great disparity in strength. Originally, as far as they were concerned, Zhuowen would surely be unable to escape calamity under the encirclement of over 10 inner court elders. Yet now, they never imagined that not only did this kid survive, he even killed 13 inner court elders instead. In the entire 100 River Marquis Mansion, only Su Zhong, Su Tsang, and Xu Yong remained. This was because besides the 3 of them, all of the inner court elders had been killed off by Zhuowen. How is this possible? How can this fellow's strength be so terrifying? Su Tianliang's mouth fell open, his voice trembling. Even a master of the meteorite, Qin Ye, Xin Yuan Li, as well as the distant Lu Nantian and Su Chong, who were facing off in the void, were shaken. To instantly kill 13 extreme, 5-wheel Emperor Realm inner court elders, Zhuowen's actions were far too shocking. That little bastard. Su Chang's face darkened. He stepped forwards, and the terrifying river in the void split apart, wanting to rush towards Zhuowen. This boy was far too great a threat. He had to be eliminated. Su Chong, with me here, don't even think of touching Zhuowen. LV Nantian instead laughed loudly, and with a flick of his finger, a strand of light that was as thick as a thumb gushed out from the tip of his finger, and it actually directly shattered that strand of river. Zhuowen had instantly killed 13 inner court elders of 100 River Marquis Mansion. Lu Nantian was also shocked, but he was even more pleased. To be able to rub off on 100 River Marquis Mansion's prestige was naturally something he wished for. Black and White, how much longer do you two want to watch the show? Hurry up and kill that bastard Zhuowen. Su Chong shouted towards the 2 old men in black and white robes in the skies above Arid Peace Palace. These two people were the highest elders of Hundred River Marquee Mansion. They were extremely strong and were both Ultimate Emperor Realm powerhouses. If the two of them joined forces, they were comparable to an Ultimate Emperor Realm powerhouse. He could already feel the threat of Zhuowen. To be able to instantly kill 13 Ultimate Emperor Realm experts, this boy was far too terrifying. He feared that even Su Zhong and the other two might not be able to capture him. In the skies above Arid Peace Palace, Black and White nodded as they heard this. In truth, they had also noticed Zhuowen's battle just now. Originally, they didn't care too much about it. This was because, in their opinion, the outcome of a dozen fifth-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm elders surrounding and attacking a young man who was also a fifth-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator was obvious. However, reality had played a huge joke on them. The young man had actually killed those 13 elders instead. The counterattack had happened too quickly, so fast that the two of them didn't even have time to react. 13 Inner Court elders have all fallen. For the Marquee Mansion, this can be considered a great loss. This boy must die. The black-robed old man stood high above, his cold eyes staring down at Zhuowen as he slowly spoke. Old Black, make your move. Although this boy is a bit strange, he isn't your match. The white-robed old man lazily said as he crossed his arms across his chest. The black-robed old man nodded. He stepped into the void and instantly landed on the ground. He stared straight at Zhuowen and said, Heroes really do come from the youth. At such a young age, you actually possess such strength. You are truly extraordinary. As he spoke to hear, the black-robed old man's voice suddenly became cold and gloomy. However, you shouldn't have killed them. Since you killed them, you should have been prepared to die. As Su Zhong, Su Tsong, and Xu Yong saw the black-robed old man descend, they respectfully cupped their hands together and called out, Highest Elder. Then, they consciously retreated behind the black-robed old man. The three of them knew that since the highest elder had made his move, then Zhuowen was dead for sure. Naturally, there is no need for them to make an unnecessary move and interfere. At this moment, Su Tianliang was standing respectfully behind the old man. The status of the highest elder was even more transcendent than his own. Even if it was him facing the black-robed old man, he didn't dare be the slightest bit presumptuous. With the highest elder making his move, Zhuowen is dead for sure. Su Tianliang said in his heart, Do you have any last words? Go ahead and say them. The black-robed old man's gaze was cold as he spoke indifferently. However, Zhuowen shook his head and said with a faint smile, Last words? Perhaps you're overthinking it. I don't intend to leave any last words for myself. The one who should do this should be you. The black-robed old man's pupils constricted when he heard this. He was so angry that he laughed instead. Good. Really good. Kid, I really don't know who gave you such courage. You still dare to speak arrogantly when you're about to die. It's just the truth. As he spoke, Zhuowen's body burst forth with a surging battle intent. He knew that the Ultimate Emperor Realm was indeed terrifying. However, with the demon-suppressing green coffin, he might be able to fight against the Ultimate Emperor Realm warrior. Since you're so eager to die, this old man will fulfill your wish. The black-robed old man smiled sinisterly. The aura in his body gushed out like a volcanic eruption. The air floated up into the shape of an inverted funnel, instantly stirring up thousands of waves. A powerful aura spread out and covered the entire area. Under this aura, Su Zhong, Su Tianliang, and the others all retreated nearly 100 meters before they could barely stabilize their bodies. They stared at the black-robed old man in horror. As expected of the highest elder of their Baichuan Marquee Mansion, just the aura he displayed was enough to make them tremble with fear and not dare to resist. The terrifying aura crushed down. Even Zhuowen couldn't help but groan and retreat continuously. Most of the black-robed old man's aura was directed at Zhuowen, so Zhuowen was affected the most. Nirvana of the Great Sun. With a low roar, Zhuowen's entire body burst with golden light. At the same time, Zhuowen patted the demon-suppressing green coffin again. With a bang, the coffin lid lifted by 1/5. A powerful aura gushed out in an attempt to resist the black-robed old man's aura. Zhuan, your aura can't resist this old man's aura. Don't waste your energy. The black-robed old man laughed. An even more terrifying aura gushed out, instantly suppressing the aura of the demon-suppressing green coffin. Umph. Demon-suppressing green coffin, open 1/3. With a cold snort, Zhuan opened 1/3 of the coffin lid without hesitation. This was also the limit that Zhuan could withstand. He knew that if he didn't go all out, just the aura of the black-robed old man was enough to make him powerless. The ultimate seven-wheel Emperor realm was too powerful. It was indeed very difficult for him to challenge the black-robed old man with his strength. Boom! 1/3 of the demon-suppressing green coffin's lid was opened. Wisps of blood-red aura rolled out from the gap of the coffin lid, instantly blocking the black-robed old man's terrifying aura. What? The aura has increased again? This guy. Chapter 603. Dragon and Elephant Seal. This Shuo one is actually still holding back. Could it be that he simply did not use his full strength when fighting against us earlier? Seeing the young man who was standing with his back straight, the expressions of Su Zhong and the others became ugly. They were very clear about how terrifying the black-robed old man's aura was. Even they had no choice but to retreat. However, not only did Zhuo not retreat, he was even fearless. That strange pressure had unknowingly increased by more than several times. However, the more monstrous Zhuan's performance was, the more intense Su Zhong and the others' killing intent toward Zhuan became. They knew that if this kid was allowed to fully mature, there would be endless trouble in the future. You're really not a simple kid. However, so what if you can block this old man's pressure? You're too weak. Quickly hand over your life. The black-robed old man shook his head. His gaze became as sharp as a blade. He took a step forward and instantly appeared in front of Zhuan, as if he had teleported. His withered branch-like palms stretched out and pressed toward Zhuan's forehead. Zhuan's expression changed greatly. The black-robed old man's strength had greatly exceeded his expectations. He was ridiculously strong. With a low shout, he suddenly removed the demon-suppressing green coffin from his back. His right hand moved forward, and the green coffin blocked in front of him. Green light soared into the sky. Clang! The sound of metal clashing came rolling over like thunder. Soon after, Zhuan was shocked to discover that the indestructible surface of the demon-suppressing green coffin had actually started to tremble intensely. Following that, a powerful rebounding force pushed him back repeatedly until he was more than 10 meters away. Standing still, Zhuan felt his blood boil. This black-robed old man was too terrifying. Even though he had used the demon-suppressing green coffin to block, he was still injured. Was the ultimate Emperor realm of the seven wheels so terrifying? I thought that the coffin on your back was an ordinary item. Looks like I was blind. It's actually so sturdy that it could completely block this old man's full-strength attack. The black-robed old man stared at the demon-suppressing green coffin in front of Zhuan in shock. In the process of collision just now, his arms were actually a little numb. This green coffin was definitely not an ordinary object. Because Zhuan possessed the concealment divine jade that Lu Hantian had given him, the black-robed elder did not realize that the demon-suppressing green coffin was a heaven-ranked spirit treasure. He only felt that this green coffin was not simple. Old Black, let's not waste any more time and deal with this brat as soon as possible. In the skies above arid Peace Palace, the white-robed old man lazily stretched his waist. The white-robed old man's gaze never landed on Zhuan. In his opinion, Zhuan was a little special, but he was already a dead man. The white-robed old man would never pay too much attention to someone who was about to die. Don't worry. This time, I'll definitely finish him off in one strike. Although the black-robed old man was displeased by the white-robed old man's attitude, he did not refute it. The white-robed old man was stronger than him, and he was quite afraid of him. Brat, after you die, don't blame this old man for being cruel and merciless. If you want to blame someone, You can only blame yourself for being arrogant and reckless. The 100 River Marquee Mansion is not some marketplace where you can come and go as you please. The black-robed old man laughed coldly. Soon after, his feet suddenly stepped forward, and his hands formed an extremely complicated seal. Instantly, with the black-robed old man as the center, the yuan energy in the surrounding hundreds of miles started to boil and surge like boiling water. Dragon Elephant Lost Seal used strength to become a saint. With a deep shout, the black-robed old man's hands formed seals like a storm, forming layer upon layer of seals. Suddenly, endless and terrifying golden seals appeared in the void. A blazing golden light flooded the entire horizon, as if it were a terrifying sea of fire. Within the terrifying golden light, there were actually earth-shaking dragon roars and elephant howls that surged out. It was as if millions of dragons and elephants were surging out from within the golden light. Their might intimidated the heavens and the earth. It's actually the Dragon Elephant Lost Seal. This is a transcendent Emperor rank armor technique. After it is used, one's strength is boundless and comparable to the strength of dragons and elephants. It's boundless and terrifying to the extreme. This Zhuan is dead for sure. A trace of a cold smile appeared on Su Tianliang's face. After the black-robed old man used the Dragon Elephant Lost Seal, he knew that Zhuan was dead for sure. Rumble. The golden light that filled the sky became even more intense. In the end, it was like a dark cloud that crushed down on Zhuan. Wherever the golden light passed, the roars of dragons and elephants sounded out continuously. It was as if there were countless dragons and elephants within the golden light. What a terrifying armor technique. I'm afraid that even an ultimate 7-wheel Emperor Realm expert wouldn't dare to take such a terrifying power head-on, right? At this moment, Zhuan's expression was extremely solemn. The black-robed old man's Dragon Elephant Lost Seal was extremely terrifying, and it was not something he could contend against. It looks like I'll need to use what Big Brother Han Tian gave me. As he felt the terrifying golden light approaching him, Zhuan suddenly lowered his head. His hawk-like eyes suddenly focused on the bone spear in his hands. On the surface of the bone spear, there were blue lines that resembled veins. These lines faintly revealed a mysterious concept. At this moment, all around the 100 River Marquee Manor, everyone was paying attention to the battle at Arab Peace Palace. In particular, after seeing the black-robed old man use the Dragon Elephant Lost Seal, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They all knew that Zhuan was finished. The Dragon Elephant Lost Seal was a transcendent Emperor rank armor technique. It was incomparably powerful and terrifying to the extreme. Moreover, it was used by an ultimate 7-wheel Emperor Realm powerhouse like the black-robed old man. Its power was immeasurable. Although Zhuan's performance just now was heaven-defying, and he had instantly killed 13 ultimate 5-wheel Emperor Realm powerhouses, compared to the black-robed old man, there was still a considerable disparity. No one believed that Zhuan would be able to block this strike. That bastard Zhuan is dead for sure. Lu Nantian, what else do you have to rely on? Su Chong proudly laughed. Lu Nantian's complexion was ugly. He coldly snorted and waved his hand. Under his control, one of the 3 giant gates floating in the void behind him flew towards Zhuan. He wanted to help Zhuan block the black-robed old man's Dragon Elephant Lost Seal. Lu Nantian, don't break the rules. It won't be easy for you to make a move. Su Chong sneered. With a stomp of his foot, the Milky Way-like river in the void cut through the void. Like a giant python, it directly wrapped around Lu Nantian's sealed door, not allowing it to leave at all. Bang! After Su Chang's delay, the black-robed old man's Dragon Elephant Lost Seal finally arrived above Zhuan. Then, without any warning, it swallowed up Zhuan's figure. Su Chong, I think you're courting death. Looking at Zhuan covered in golden light, Lu Nantian was furious and murderous. This Zhuan was Lu Hantian's brother. He was extremely important to Lu Hantian. How could he be killed like this? If Lu Hantian knew about this, who knew what the consequences would be? As the Dragon Elephant Lost Seal descended, Everyone sighed. The dragon elephant law seal used by an ultimate seven-wheel emperor was enough to shatter mountains and rock. It was earth-shattering. No matter how heaven-defying Zhuowen was, it would be difficult for him to break it. If he couldn't break it, he could only die. What a pity for such a genius! Xin Yuanli, who was carrying a long sword on his back, shook his head and sighed. During the battle for the Vitality Tower, he had noticed that Zhuowen was not ordinary. Although Zhu Qi was eliminated by Zhuowen, he did not pursue the matter. After all, Zhu Qi was defeated by Zhuowen head-on. There was nothing to say. He knew that if such a genius participated in the Battle of the Nine Counties, he would definitely shine brightly. Unfortunately, he died prematurely. The Master of Falling Star Garden and Xin Nia also revealed a look of pity on their faces. Obviously, they both had a fondness for Zhuowen. On the other hand, Luo Xing's beautiful eyes flickered slightly. She clenched her fists. For the first time, her beautiful face revealed a moved expression. This kid is dead. It's a pity that we can't capture him alive. The black-robed old man slowly descended. Looking at the figure trapped in the dragon elephant law seal, the corners of his mouth curled into a sneer. Elder Heijia is indeed resourceful and unparalleled. This Zhuowen is just a clown in front of you. Su Tianyang led Su Zhong and the others to the old man's side and flattered him. Su Tianyang's praise made the black-robed old man quite happy. He smiled and said, "Eldest crown prince is too polite. Since this Zhuowen is dead, then the rest of the Zhuo family members are up to you to deal with." Hearing this, Su Tianyang's face revealed a touch of cruelty. He said to Su Zhong and the other two, "You guys break open the Red Sun treasure bowl and kill these Zhuo family members." Zhuowen had almost taken his life. Su Tianyang had a deep hatred for Zhuowen and the Zhuo family members. This time, he must eliminate the root of the problem and not leave any future troubles. Yes, Su Zhong and the other two cupped their hands and rushed out. Each of them displayed a terrifying move and bombarded the Red Sun treasure bowl not far away. At this moment, Zhuo Xiangding and the others were in despair, especially after Zhuowen was enveloped by the dragon elephant law seal. They were very clear about the terror of a seven-wheel ultimate emperor realm martial artist. No matter how heaven-defying Zhuowen was, the chances of him surviving were very low. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the surface of the Red Sun treasure bowl vibrated violently. All the members of the Zhuo family were frightened and gathered together. "Father, what should we do now?" Zhuo Baitian said to Zhuo Xiangding. At this moment, Zhuo Xiangding was out of his wits. His eyes dimmed, and he smiled bitterly. "It's over. Zhuowen is dead. Our Zhuo family is finished. Our Zhuo family is really going to be exterminated." The members of the Zhuo family were silent. An atmosphere of fear pervaded the surroundings. Crack! A crisp cracking sound was heard. The Red Sun treasure bowl finally began to crumble under the combined attacks of Su Zhong, Xu Yong, and Su Cong. "Ha! Zhuo family members die? After you die, you can go to hell and blame your Zhuo family for giving birth to a bastard like Zhuowen." Loud laughter filled the sky. Su Zhong and the other two stepped on the void and rushed towards the despairing members of the Zhuo family. Their eyes were bloodthirsty. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. When Su Zhong and the other two were about to reach Zhuo Xiangding and the others, 3 bone-chilling rays of light whizzed through the void. It was like 10,000 years of mysterious ice. Then, Su Zhong and the other two's figures suddenly stopped in midair. It was as if time had stopped. "You want to touch my Zhuo family members? You are not qualified." Chapter 604. Domineering Spear Intent Puqi. 3 streams of blood spurted out. Su Zhong and the other two, who had stopped moving, covered their necks with their hands. Their eyes bulged and were bloodshot. The 3 streams of blood had appeared from their necks. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, Su Zhong and the other two fell to the ground. Their auras became weaker and weaker until they were no longer breathing. 3 ultimate 6-wheel emperors had been killed in an instant. Not only was the black-robed elder stunned, but the white-robed elder, who was originally unconcerned, was also stunned. Su Zhong and the other two represented the peak battle strength of the intersect elders. Who would have thought that they would be killed in an instant? How is this possible? How did that little bastard Zhuan's strength suddenly increase so much? Su Tianliang could not help but exclaim. His eyes were filled with intense shock. Originally, Zhuan's ability to kill 13 ultimate 5-wheel Emperor Elders in an instant was already extremely heaven-defying. However, the deaths of Su Zhong and the other two had completely shocked Su Tianliang. These were 3 ultimate 6-wheel Emperors. There were less than 5 of them in the house of the Marquis of Baichuan. At this moment, Su Tianliang was no longer looking at Zhuan with resentment. Instead, he was looking at him with fear and shock. He began to wonder if this youth's strength was as unfathomable as a deep well. It was too easy for him to kill him. Thud, thud, thud. The crisp sound of footsteps slowly rang out. At this moment, Zhuan's black hair was dancing in the wind. The bone spear in his hand continuously released an extremely terrifying aura. What was even stranger was that the surface of the bone spear was covered with blue veins that looked like meridians in a human body. A mysterious and terrifying aura surged along with the blue veins and surrounded Zhuan. It was like a rising current of air that completely enveloped him. He was like a demon or a god with an imposing aura. This is spear intent, and it's an extremely terrifying and domineering spear intent. The black-robed old man's pupils shrank. At this moment, he actually felt a trace of threat from Zhuan's body. In particular, the spear intent that erupted from the bone spear in Zhuan's hand gave him a terrifying feeling of destruction. The originally lazy white-robed old man frowned slightly. For the first time, he looked at Zhuan. He did not expect that Zhuan would be able to grasp such a profound concept at such a young age. He was very clear about the terror of a concept. It was a terrifying realm that could greatly increase a martial artist's strength. Although it was illusory, its destructive power was absolutely far beyond that of a martial artist of the same level. A martial artist who had grasped the concept was absolutely invincible within the same realm, and could even challenge those of a higher realm. This was the privilege of a martial artist who had grasped the concept, and those who were able to grasp a concept were all terrifyingly gifted geniuses. Although the white-robed old man had not comprehended the concept, he had naturally heard of it. The concept was divided into the elementary level, the advanced level, and the peak level. Each level was sharper and more terrifying than the previous one. It was an extremely terrifying attacking method. This kid has really grasped the concept. Spear intent is about the way of the overlord. This kid is crazy and sharp enough. No wonder he can grasp spear intent. Unfortunately, he is only at the elementary level. Outside the Baichuan Marquis mansion, the youth with the large blade crossed his arms. He looked at Zhuan with a fiery gaze. He had grasped the advanced level of saber intent and had a unique view of concepts. At this moment, he could see the depth of Zhuan's strength with just a glance. However, the youth with the large blade still had some doubts. He found that within the bone spear in Zhuan's hand, there seemed to be an even more domineering and terrifying concept. This concept was absolutely far beyond the elementary level of spear intent. No wonder this kid was able to surpass LV Tao at the Zhongling Mountain and break the record. This kid's perception and potential are too terrifying. He even comprehended the illusory concept. This Zhuan's future is limitless. Xian Yuan Li also stared at Zhuan with a fiery gaze. The concept was a realm that every martial artist dreamed of. Xian Yuan Li had spent his entire life on the sword in order to comprehend sword intent. Unfortunately, his perception was not enough. After studying for nearly 100 years, he was still unable to comprehend sword intent. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was to comprehend the concept. But now, Zhuan had done it. How could Xian Yuan Li not be excited? He really wanted to see what the legendary conception was like. Perhaps he would be able to comprehend it a little because of this. Su Chang, who was originally proud of himself, now had a slightly ugly complexion. He did not expect that Zhuowen could actually grasp spear intent. This talent and potential were really terrifying. The more terrifying Zhuowen's talent was, the more Su Chang's killing intent surged. This kid must be eliminated. Otherwise, 10 years later, he would become a peerless powerhouse that could threaten his Baichuan marquee mansion. Haha, Su Chang, it seems that your wishful thinking is wrong. This Zhuowen is not simple. Lu Nantian let out a light breath and chuckled. He was also shocked by Zhuowen's mastery of spear intent, but he was even more excited. This kid is indeed terrifying. But with just elementary spear intent, do you think he could be a match for a 7-wheel ultimate Emperor Realm martial artist? If that's what you think, then you're really wrong. Su Chang shook his head, the corner of his mouth revealing a mocking smile. So what if Zhuowen grasped spear intent? The gap between him and the black-robed old man was too obvious. In the end, he would still be defeated. Hearing this, Lu Nantian frowned. However, he was not too worried. He did not believe that Lu Hantian would just watch Zhuowen fall like this. There must be some kind of backup plan. No wonder you can be called the biggest dark horse in this year's Essence Chi Tower battle. Your talent is indeed terrifying. But you only have elementary spear intent, and you want to compete with this old man? If that's the case, then you're just a fool's dream. Killing a monstrous genius like you is not a small achievement. The black-robed old man was stunned at first, but then he sneered again and again. He moved his feet and turned into an elusive black shadow, instantly disappearing. In the next second, he was already above Zhuowen's forehead. His withered branch-like palms stretched out, and the surrounding air suddenly boiled. Elementary spear intent is indeed not your opponent. But what if it's advanced spear intent? Zhuowen sneered. One must know that his bone spear was infused with a portion of Lu Hantian spear intent. If it was fully unleashed, it would be enough to display the terrifying power of spear intent. With that, Zhuowen's footsteps shifted slightly. He raised his head and stared straight at the black-robed old man above, without the slightest intention of dodging. What is this kid doing? Is he looking to die? In the skies above Arid Peace Palace, the white-robed old man looked at Zhuowen's strange actions and couldn't help but frown. He didn't know why, but he actually felt a faint sense of unease. This boy is only at the ultimate 5-wheel Emperor realm. Although he has grasped elementary spear intent, it's unlikely that he will be Old Black's match. Old Black should be able to easily capture this boy. The white-robed old man chuckled, thinking that he was worrying too much. The black-robed old man's claw instantly arrived. In the blink of an eye, it was only an inch away from Zhuowen's forehead. The black-robed old man's lips curved up in a cold sneer. This boy would die without a doubt. At such a close distance, there was simply no way for him to dodge. Bang! All of a sudden, the bone spear in Zhuowen's hand moved horizontally, and the blue veins on the surface of the bone spear actually separated, turning into drops of blue water. A mysterious feeling surged, and the surrounding space actually started to distort. The black-robed elder's claw also came into contact with the surrounding blue water droplets. Following that, the smile on his face slowly froze. This was because he discovered that the moment his claw came into contact with the blue water droplets, it actually stopped moving. Whoosh! The sound of something tearing through the air rang out. Then, the black-robed old man's pupils constricted as he discovered that the tip of Zhuowen's bone spear had suddenly shot over at a terrifying speed. The tip of the bone spear, which was suffused with a cold light, instantly pierced through his claw. Poochie! Blood splattered into the air. The black-robed old man only felt pain in his arm. Then, he was shocked to discover that his right arm had been cut off at the shoulder. Ah, my arm, my arm. The black-robed old man suddenly flew backwards. Blood poured down like a curtain of rain. At some point in time, his right arm was already empty. The confrontation between the two had actually ended with the black-robed old man losing his arm. Hiss, hiss. Gasps could be heard from the surroundings. The black-robed old man was the great elder of the Marquis of Baichuan's residence. His strength was also at the ultimate 7-wheel Emperor realm. Now, his arm had actually been cut off by Zhuowen. How did this Zhuowen do it? This guy's spear intent isn't at the elementary level at all. It's at the advanced level. This guy is even younger than me. How can he also comprehend the concept of advanced level? Outside the marquee of Baichuan's residence, the young man with a large saber, who was originally leisurely, had an expression of shock on his face. The spear intent that Zhuan had used just now was definitely not at the elementary level, but at the advanced level. Otherwise, it would have been impossible to cut off the black-robed old man's arm. Interesting. I originally thought that this little guy from Muqing County had only comprehended the elementary level of spear intent. I didn't expect that he had actually reached the advanced level like me. It seems that there will be a place for him on the Green Emperor list. The young man with a large saber smiled faintly as he muttered to himself. While everyone was still in shock, Zhuan appeared extremely calm. He stepped on the air, and his speed soared to the extreme. In an instant, he caught up with the black-robed old man who had been sent flying backwards with his arm cut off. This old man must be killed. Little bastard, how dare you? If you dare to kill old Black, this old man will exterminate 9 generations of your family. A loud shout surged out. Following that, the originally languid white-robed old man roared towards the sky. His face was filled with shock and anger. He directly slapped his palm towards Zhuan's back, wanting to stop Zhuan. What a terrifying aura. This white-robed old man's cultivation is even more terrifying than the black-robed old man's. Could it be that he's an ultimate 8-wheel emperor? Feeling the terrifying aura behind him, Zhuan's expression changed greatly. This white-robed old man was too terrifying. However, now is the best time to kill the black-robed old man. If he missed this opportunity, it would be very difficult to kill such an expert again. Moreover, Zhuan also knew that as long as he killed the black-robed old man, the Marquis of Baichuan's residence would definitely suffer a great loss. This was an ultimate 7-wheel emperor expert. Such an expert was too rare. In the Marquis of Baichuan's residence, the only ones who were stronger than the black-robed old man were the white-robed old man, Su Chong, and the mysterious Su Lingtian. You want to stop me? It won't be that easy. With a cold snort, Zhuan no longer held back. In an instant, he activated all of Lu Hantian's spear intent within a bone spear. Suddenly, the blue water droplets around him condensed and turned into blue ice crystals that revolved around him. Meanwhile, Zhuan swept towards the black-robed old man without slowing down. Chapter 605. Stunning Lu Hantian's spear intent was terrifying. When Lu Hantian had injected a portion of his spear intent into the dragon-scale tyrannical bone spear, he had said that no one below the ultimate emperor stage could hurt Zhuan. From this, one could see how powerful Lu Hantian's spear intent was. The blue ice crystals formed by the terrifying spear intent revolved around Zhuan. The white-robed old man's terrifying attack also arrived in an instant. However, under the effect of the blue ice crystals, it was directly shattered and turned into ashes. Swoosh! Swoosh! At the same time, the blue ice crystals swept towards the white-robed old man like a curtain of rain, causing him to retreat in a rather sorry state. His face was extremely gloomy. How is this possible? How can this child possess such terrifying spear intent in his body? How old is this Zhuan? How can he comprehend the concept of perfection at such a young age? As he blocked the blue ice crystals in front of him, the white-robed old man continuously retreated in the void. His expression was even more unsightly. However, his heart was like a raging storm that was extremely unsettled. Pucci! As the white-robed old man retreated, a pillar of blood shot into the sky and a large head flew into the air. Zhuan had actually killed the black-robed old man. The black-robed old man's head flew high into the sky. The fear and shock on his face had completely frozen. It was as if time had stopped and stayed on his face for a long time. Following that, the entire area fell into a strange and long silence. Everyone raised their heads in tacit understanding, and their gazes converged on the frozen head. Gulp. Finally, the black-robed old man's head fell to the ground with a thud. After rolling a few times on the ground, it came to a complete stop. Hiss. Hiss. Instantly, everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. The Grand Elder, the Marquis of Baichuan's residence, Old Black, had fallen just like that. Such an outcome was truly unacceptable to the surrounding people. This was a 7-wheel ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. Just like that, he had been killed by Zhuowen right in front of them. After the silence, an earth-shattering uproar surged through the surroundings. Dead. The Grand Elder, the Marquis of Baichuan's residence, Old Black, has actually died just like that? How did this Zhuowen do it? Isn't he only at the ultimate Emperor stage? With such strength, how did he manage to kill Old Man He? Gasps of surprise, uproar, and clamor filled the surroundings of the Baichuan Marquis mansion like a tsunami. The death of Old Man He had shocked everyone. Motherf asterisk her, is my eyesight is failing me? That was the highest level of concept power. Has this fellow's spear intent reached the terrifying peak of perfection? He Hantian Xian's body tremors could not help rubbing his eyes. He could not help but exclaim shock was the Marquis of size. Just now, Zhuowen's spear strike had been too stunning. Not only had he blocked the attack of the white-robed old man, but he had also taken the black-robed old man's head with a single strike. Even the young man with the large saber was impressed by such a stunning spear strike. He knew that the concept of that spear strike had far surpassed his saber intent. He had mastered the advanced saber intent, so the only thing that could surpass his saber intent was the peak of perfection. He knew that Zhuowen's last strike had definitely used the peak of perfection spear intent. Phew, this kid is terrifying. The young man with the large saber squinted his eyes and looked at Zhuowen with fear. Originally, he had wanted to spar with Zhuowen for fun, but now he realized that the young man in front of him, who did not have a high cultivation, actually gave him a great sense of pressure and threat. Creak! The smile on Su Chang's face completely froze. He stared at Zhuowen below, and his body trembled uncontrollably. The black-robed old man was the supreme elder of the Marquis Mansion and one of the higher-ups of the Marquis Mansion. But now, he had fallen in front of him. How could Su Chang not be agitated and angry? Zhuowen, you little bastard, you dare to kill the black-robed old man. Who gave you the courage, you little bastard? Su Chang stared at Zhuowen below, and his voice was full of resentment. Who gave you the courage? Su Chang, you old dog, you're really full of yourself. You've tried to harm me time and time again. Now, you've even captured a member of my Zhuo family. You're saying that I shouldn't be killed for this grudge. You can't be so shameless. Are you saying that only you can kill my people and I can't kill yours? But don't worry, I won't let your son, Su Tianliang, go. Holding the bone spear, Zhuowen's smile grew colder. He took a step and rushed towards Su Tianliang, his face full of murderous intent. Su Tianliang, today is the day you die. Zhuowen's loud and clear voice resounded throughout the entire open space like rolling thunder. Damn it! Looking at Zhuowen rushing toward him, Su Tianliang's face changed greatly and his body trembled involuntarily. The strength that Zhuowen had displayed was too terrifying. Even the Supreme Elder, the black-robed old man, was killed by him. How could he be a match for him? Elder White saved Tianliang quickly. Su Chang's eyes became extremely anxious. Although he wanted to go down and help Su Tianliang, unfortunately, Lu Nantian was watching him from the side. He had no chance to do anything and could only let the white-robed old man do it. The white-robed old man's strength was above that of the black-robed old man. He was an ultimate Emperor realm expert and believed that he could stop Zhuowen. The white-robed old man also knew the seriousness of the matter. With a shake of his sleeve, a powerful force surged out and instantly shattered the blue ice crystals in front of him. He took a step in the air and instantly appeared behind Su Tianliang. His withered hand grabbed Su Tianliang's collar. Suddenly, Su Tianliang was lifted off the ground and the white-robed old man retreated dozens of meters away with Su Tianliang. Rumble. In the blink of an eye, Zhuowen's bone spear arrived as expected, slamming into the ground where Su Tianliang had just been standing. Instantly, a ring-shaped wave of air spread out. With the bone spear as the center, several li of the ground collapsed, turning into rubble and ruins. Do you think you can escape? Looking at Su Tianliang being taken away by the white-robed old man, the murderous intent on Zhuowen's face became even more intense. His right hand touched the shaft of the bone spear, intending to completely release the powerful spear intent that Lu Hantian had stored inside. Rumble. After completely releasing the spear intent, the blue veins on the surface of the bone spear gradually disappeared. However, the power of concept around Zhuowen had reached an extremely terrifying level. Blue veins emerged from under Zhuowen's feet and extended to the surface of his body. Instantly, the surface of Zhuowen's body was covered with pulsing blue veins. At the same time, the power of Zhuowen had also risen to an extremely terrifying level. Zhuowen could not help but be startled as he felt the aura that had suddenly erupted within his body, as well as the numerous blue veins that covered the surface of his body. He did not expect that such a situation would occur when he completely activated the spear intent within his bone spear. The blue veins that covered the surface of his body were formed by Lu Hantian's spear intent. Now, Zhuowen's every move could unleash a portion of Lu Hantian's spear intent's power. It was equivalent to a clone of Lu Hantian, possessing a portion of Lu Hantian's power. Although Zhuowen's strength was still only at the ultimate emperor realm, with the support of Lu Hantian's terrifying concept, no cultivator below the ultimate emperor realm would be able to harm him. The white-robed old man was only at the ultimate emperor realm. If he wanted to harm the current Zhuowen, it was simply a pipe dream. If Zhuowen went all out, the white-robed old man might even be in danger. Let go of Su Tianyang or die. Zhuowen, who was covered in blue veins, looked rather strange and sinister. At this moment, his calm and cold eyes stared straight at the white-robed old man as he spoke each word clearly. The white-robed old man's face twitched. He could feel that Zhuowen's power was terrifying at this moment. He actually felt a trace of threat from this person. Although your spear intent is indeed terrifying, I'm afraid you're still not qualified to make me let go of the Crown Prince. Although I'm rather surprised that you were able to kill Old Hay, I'm not Old Hay. I'm much stronger than him. If you want the Crown Prince, don't even think about it. The white-robed old man narrowed his eyes. His voice was extremely low, but his tone was not that unyielding. If that's the case, then you can accompany your Crown Prince to the Yellow Springs together. With that, Zhuowen took a step forward and a blue shadow flashed through the void. He instantly arrived in front of the white-robed old man and swung his spear. It was a simple spear, but it contained an extremely terrifying intent realm. When the intent realm exploded, the surrounding space collapsed and distorted, and the crisp sound of glass shattering could be heard. The white-robed old man's eyelids twitched. Zhuowen's simple spear actually gave him a feeling of fear and trepidation. How could a mere ultimate Emperor Realm fifth wheel erupt with such terrifying spear intent? 5 dragons capturing hand. The white-robed old man shouted in a low voice. A claw that resembled a withered branch stretched out from the void. Instantly, a terrifying dragon roar resounded from the void behind him. Then, 5 humongous chi dragons broke through the void and rushed over. The 5 dragons were in 5 different directions, vaguely forming the shape of a claw. They flew directly towards Zhuowen with a terrifying aura and monstrous might. Zhuowen was awe-inspiring and fearless. He took several steps forward in the void, and waves of air swirled and spread. The bone spear was like a venomous snake, turning into a cold light that filled the sky. It shuttled between the 5 dragons at a tricky angle. Boom, boom, boom. Instantly, the 5 terrifying dragons in the void cried out in pain. Their huge heads exploded, and all of them disintegrated into powder. What? The 5 dragons capturing hand was broken? The white-robed old man's expression changed drastically. Ever since Zhuowen erupted with his terrifying spear intent, he seemed to be a little too strong. Even his most powerful 5 dragons capturing hand was broken in an instant. Die. Zhuowen's expression was extremely cold. The bone spear in his hand pierced out again. Instantly, a terrifying shadow of the spear was left in the surrounding space. This shadow was produced when the spear intent reached an extremely terrifying level. "Damn it! Block it for me!" The white-robed old man shouted in a low voice. He held Su Tianliang in his left hand, and his right hand pointed at the void again. Immediately, a giant door of 100 feet appeared in front of him, wanting to block Shuowen's fatal strike. The shadow of the spear arrived in an instant and pressed against the giant door, making a crisp sound. Then the giant door collapsed inch by inch. The spear's momentum did not diminish as it swept past the white-robed old man. Pucci, you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.